Good evening. It having reached the hour of 5:31 p.m., I am calling the July 13th, 2021 Modesto City Council meeting to order and ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Council members Ricky,
Here.
Zalaki,
Here.
Knoyer,
Here.
Wright,
Here.
Eskisha Brayton,
Here.
Madrigal,
Present.
Mayor Swallen.
Here. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation from Dallas Jackson from Renewed Church. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Let us pray. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the men and women that you've brought here today. We pray for wisdom and guidance as you lead them as they lead us. In the places where disagreement comes, we pray for unity. We pray for your direction. We think that we're half year in to this year and great things ahead. So we just thank you. Be with each and every person here, and we thank you for the way that you guide and lead. Again, just be with the men and women. Give them your wisdom and discernment and care for people. We thank you. We love you. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Does the city clerk have any announcements?
Yes, I do, Mayor. A couple items. Items number 2 and 4 under acknowledgments and presentations. They will be heard together. Item number 6 has been removed from consent. On item number 22, I did receive an email which I forwarded on to the council. And item number 24, there was a protest letter that was sent, which was forwarded on to the council as well.
Thank you. Do any of the council members have any conflict of interest?
Nope.
Seeing none, does the city attorney have a report from closed session?
Mayor, the council considered an existing litigation matter in closed session. Today, no reportable action was taken.
Thank you. Next is acknowledgments and presentations. And as was mentioned, we'll start out with item 1, and that is Supervisor Graywall with a county COVID-19 update. Welcome.
Obviously, I'm not Supervisor Graywall. He had an unforeseen circumstance, unfortunately, so I rushed down here to give you guys an update on what's going on the county level with COVID update. So in Stanislaus, 42% of our residents have received at least, or are fully vaccinated. So we're really excited about that. Around 55% are partially vaccinated, but 211,000 people have not received a vaccine yet, so we're still encouraging people to get out there, get their vaccine. The good news is in the county and the city, the test positivity and hospitalization rates are stable. And for Modesto, for you guys, 56% of Modesto residents have received at least one dose, so that's very good, but 76,000 have not yet received a vaccine. So we're still encouraging people to get out there, get their vaccines. You can find it on Stan Emergency, and I'm sure all on your social media websites as well. And then for just another update, the state released updated school guidance. If you guys have not seen, the guidance calls for universal masking indoors regardless of vaccination status. However, it does not focus on physical distancing. The masking requirements are not unique, as other activities and places which the risk is considered higher, all persons, regardless of vaccination status, are required to wear masks. So public transport, healthcare facilities, shelters, and correctional facilities. So again, good news as our cases are down overall in Stanislaus and in Modesto. Our hospitalization rate is starting to be stable. So just continue to get vaccinated and follow the CDC guidelines and the state guidelines, and hopefully we can get through this. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the council? All right, any comments from the public? All right, any comments from council? Seeing none, thank you very much for that report. I appreciate it. And now, as I mentioned before, we will combine item 2 and item 4, and this will be introduced by Lori Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Swallen, members of the City Council, Lori Smith, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhoods. And I am pleased to be here this evening with our Parks and Recreation mascots, Mac and Maggie, and other members of our staff. And I think that Mac and Maggie have left something special for each of you at your seats at the dais. Since 1985, America has celebrated July as the nation's official Parks and Recreation Month. Created by the National Recreation and Park Association, Park and Recreation Month specifically highlights the vital role local parks and recreation plays in providing family-friendly activities that contribute to the health and wellness of our community. And we saw this last year. I'm sorry, these guys are getting to me. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our Parks and Recreation team. They've done what they've done in the last year to stay connected with the community through innovation, creativity, and dedication. And now I'd like to introduce our outgoing poet laureate, Stella Baratlis, who is going to share a poem with you about Parks and Recreation.
All right, welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
I wrote a poem for Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhoods Division, but also to commemorate National Parks and Recreation Month this month. The title is "This is the Place." Before I begin, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we are standing on the ancestral homelands of the Yokuts people who did such a good job for centuries as caretakers of this place before the 20th century. So, all right, this is the place. I wanted to write a braided poem, one that wove 3 strands into a coherent whole. In it, I would write a litany of all the life we live in our city's open spaces, parks, and buildings, the marriages in McClatchy Square every weekend, birthday parties in T.B. Scott Park, poetry readings at the museum, country music dance at the senior center, sitting at the edge of the splash fountain in Griseda Park watching our children, we pass through all the seasons of our lives. Then, around that strand of general experience, I would weave in something else entirely, the primary sources that outline the goals and objectives, policies and procedures of parks, recreation, and neighborhoods. I'd praise each clause of the facility reservation agreements, adore the various maps, their little icons indicating a public facility or a park space, bless even the bureaucratic language of policy and mid-year budget adjustment requests. These documents that seek to systematize what is chaotic and nonlinear, that work in concert to bring the good life to all residents. Finally comes the 3rd strand of this braided poem, the one where I wrap my infant daughter in her sling, and we walk down the street to the park. It is midnight, and she will not sleep. I sing to her, hold her to myself while I sway back and forth on the swing, patiently waiting it out, knowing that the rhythm that carries my girl into sleep will eventually develop, like a photographic image transforms in the dark room from latent to visible. Our life in the park at midnight is like that, the latent made visible, the chaotic becoming a kind of logic. And this is only one example of the intricacy of our public spaces, where one person's recreation is another's lifeline, another's beating heart. Let us hail this complexity, this weaving, the warp and weft of our neighborhoods, places, and people, the places that make us, which we self-govern through institutions that we create. Not a faceless division that stands outside of us. Instead, its work and mission reflect us, all the facets of a people, the individual strands, and braids these manifold intelligences into a coherence which yet respects the weird wisdom of us. It seeks to bind us to ourselves, draw us closer to each other, soothe us on a swing at midnight. It both asks and answers the question, What makes a city? We do. We do. We do. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Stella. That was a beautiful poem. We appreciate your sharing it with us. And as you mentioned earlier, Mayor, this is the time we'd like to go to item 4 in the proclamation declaring it Parks and Recreation Month.
Thank you. So this is a proclamation proclaiming July 2021 as Parks and Recreation Month. Parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the City of Modesto. And our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And parks and recreation programs increase the community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and parks and natural recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to the development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide for a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And parks and recreation remains versatile and innovative in providing vital services to communities through local, national, and global emergencies, all while adhering to guidelines set forth in governing agencies. And the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and the City of Modesto recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Modesto City Council does hereby recognize July 2021 as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Modesto, and that is dated this 13th of July, 2021, and I have signed this. And I wanted to make sure that we have an opportunity before I come down for the presentation for any questions from council members. Seeing none. Any comments from the public? I see one comment from the public. If this is regarding parks and recreation and poems, from Ramon Rodriguez.
Actually, this is for public comments, not for this
Okay.
particular.
Got it. Thank you. Kyle Seaver. This is for Parks and Recreation and our poet laureate.
Yeah, so my question regarding this topic on Parks and Recreation is, I've been calling, reaching out, asking about December 29th becoming Trevor Seaver Day, and I can't seem to get any type of response. It's pretty disturbing to my family and I to see people like first responders or people taking 911 calls getting weeks dedicated to them, and you guys murdered an unarmed 29-year-old man that did not commit a crime. The least you could do is make December 29th Trevor Seaver Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none. Any comments from, it looks like, I'm not sure, Kevin McClarty, if this was a comment regarding this agenda item, Parks and Recreation?
Yes, I just wanted to take advantage of this moment and ask about Tuolumne River Regional Park because the vehicular access to it has been cut off now for well over a year, and there are no signs or anything indicating when vehicles will be able to return to the park. Also, there's been a major arsonist problem down there, and many of the oak trees have been burned, and I have talked this over with a former member of the council, and when she was on the council, and she had talked about maybe getting some rangers for the park. And it just seems to me that, you know, we have a standing grove of ancient oak trees that would be equivalent to the kind of a thing that you would have if you had, you know, a standing grove of redwood trees. And we have a sacred obligation to protect these trees. And Council Member Ayu was very much in favor of having rangers down at the park. And I just want to say, I mean, it just seems to me that, you know, we have these wonderful proclamations and so forth, but when it comes down to the brass tacks of actually protecting the park, then it becomes another issue. And I'm hoping that we can take a look at protecting it, protecting those trees, and restoring vehicular access to the park so people can enjoy it, but at the same time protecting it. And it's really just a lovely park, and it's just going to seed right now. There are homeless encampments down there still in the park itself, and nobody's doing anything about it, so it's very sad. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll just make one comment. If both Kyle and Kevin would send me an email with your concerns, I will forward that on to our city manager so that we can get specific responses and find out what the latest and greatest information is regarding those topics. So thank you for your comments. Any other comments from the public? Yes, so that we can hear you in the speaker. Okay. All right. All right. We have a comment from Steve regarding Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we certainly can.
I am very confident that Kyle Seaver is a very articulate and bright person, and I would not want to speak for him, but it's my impression that when he said you murdered his brother, I'm pretty sure he was speaking to the City of Modesto and all of its leadership. I did notice the woman at the podium shaking her head, aghast at such a comment. I would certainly hope it's because she doesn't pay attention to the news. I'm sure she knows about what Joseph LaMantia did on video. But I just want to agree, assuming that I'm understanding Kyle's statement correctly, Trevor's murder was 100% the responsibility of the County of Stanislaus and the Modesto Police Department and the city leadership of Modesto Police Department. If action had been taken when it should have been, Trevor would still be with us today. So thank you for your time. I just wanted to make sure that was clear, and I certainly hope that I haven't stepped on Kyle's toes because he is perfectly capable of speaking for himself, but it just appeared to me to be that maybe someone had misunderstood his words. Thank you. And that does pertain to the topic because his complaint about how you guys have ignored him is absolutely credible. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments from the public? All right, any comments from council members? All right, I'll just make one comment that I have lived here my entire life, and as a child spent every day in the summer in Grace-Ada Park, and spent many, many evenings with my children in the parks playing baseball and being able to take care of all of these recreational opportunities. And I've always been so proud of the parks in the city of Modesto. So at this time, I will come down to present the proclamation. And
if you don't mind, we'd like to get a quick photo with these two crazies.
All right. And if my fellow council members want to join us, that would be great.
Come on.
All right, now we are on item 3, presentation of proclamation proclaiming August 3rd, 2021 as National Night Out. And I believe that Interim Chief, no? Who is coming forward on that? All right, great. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm CSO Lauren Galvis with the Modesto Police Department's Crime Prevention Unit, and we're gearing up for National Night Out on August 3rd, and we're happy to be here, and we hope we can get a photo with you afterwards.
You certainly can.
Yep, my name's Jessica Martinez. I'm also a CSO with Modesto PD and with Lauren in the Crime Prevention Unit, so we're excited about today.
All right, we welcome both of you here. At this time, do we have any questions from council members regarding National Night Out? All right, I don't see any. How about, oh, sorry, Councilmember Canoyer.
Are they going to have ride-alongs even though with COVID, or how is that?
Yes.
You are?
We'll add
Do
you to
we
the
have
list.
to have any specific, like, we have to be vaccinated or wear masks or?
If you're not vaccinated, please wear a mask.
Okay, thank you.
We will get this coordinated, Councilmember. We'll send emails out and make sure everything gets coordinated.
All right, thank you. Any comments from the public regarding this particular item, number 3? Right, I don't see anyone online or in public. Any comments from council members? Well, this is another evening that we can be very proud of, and our city does a great job with this, so thank you. I'd like to read the proclamation proclaiming August 3rd, 2021 as National Night Out. The National Association of Town Watch is sponsoring a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on August 3rd, 2021 entitled National Night Out. The 38th Annual National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the City of Modesto to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. The Modesto Police Department's Neighborhood Watch program plays a vital role in assisting the City of Modesto through joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts and supporting National Night Out 2021 locally. It is essential that all citizens of the City of Modesto be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in the City of Modesto. Police community partnerships, neighborhood safety, awareness, and cooperation are important themes of National Night Out program. And the City of Modesto became the first city to win first place for 2 consecutive years in the history of National Night Out. In 2019, Modesto placed first in California and 4th nationwide for cities of the same size. The City of Modesto is looking forward to gathering with all members of the community with the collective goal of bringing back National Night Out. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Sue Zwollen, do hereby call upon the citizens of Modesto to join the National Association of Town Watch in supporting the 38th Annual National Night Out on Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021. And do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021 as National Night Out in the City of Modesto, and that is dated this 13th day of July, 2021. And I will step down, and if council members would like to join me, we will get a picture and celebrate this great occasion. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much for all your efforts. Really appreciate you and your work.
Gonna high
This
five.
is a big deal.
It is. People are excited.
It's a very big deal. Thanks a lot.
We did that.
And Mayor, Brandon Gillespie, Interim Police Chief, just to add a few things real quick. We're excited about this National Night Out event. We have over 81 parties already registered. And we'll have, as usual, now that we'll still be abiding by COVID protocols where appropriate. But we're excited to have some of our special units going out, engaging with the community, really having that night of getting our community together to come together to meet their neighbors and drive down crime, and look really forward to August 3rd. So there's still time to sign up for parties, so please contact our crime prevention unit or get on our website, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody out on August 3rd. Thank you.
Great. That's good to know. Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation and for being with us this evening, everyone. All right, this is the public comment period. Does anyone wish to speak on any item under public comment? And this is for items not on the council agenda, and everyone has 3 minutes to speak. So in person, it looks like I only have one blue card for a speaker that's about something not on the agenda, and I believe it's Hank and Ashley Olson. Hi, welcome. Sure, yes, because it's recorded, and then everyone can hear you at home and on Zoom and everywhere.
No,
you know.
He just wasn't following me, so I need to.
First time.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing us. I'm just going to go ahead and read this if that's okay.
Sure.
It has been brought to our attention that an event has been planned and is being promoted that will negatively impact many businesses located in downtown Modesto on 11th Street between I and J Streets. These local family-owned businesses include us, Food Fix Butcher and Baker, Bark and Dog Grill, Tricetti's World Cafe, Escape Modesto, and the Fox Pub. This event, Modesto Taco Fest, is being promoted to take place on Saturday, August 28th, 2021, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. The date and time is respectively one of the busiest days and times for these local businesses. While we respect any effort and or event made to bring our community together, especially after the recent year we all have had, an event that shuts down local businesses who are still reeling from involuntary shutdowns seems unnecessarily cruel and wrong. We want to make it clear that we're not asking to shut the event down, but request that they find another location that will not negatively hinder local businesses. This event will block any foot or vehicle traffic to the businesses listed. To enjoy being served by these businesses, a patron will need to pay once to get into the Taco Fest and twice for food, beverages, and air-conditioned buildings. In reality, all of these businesses will have to close for the day. Staying open would mean watching our customers being turned away and forced to pay extra to enter our street. Imagine watching as food vendors who don't pay rent or own a business on our street take business away from our establishments that we've worked so hard to get. Additionally, some of us have entertainment already booked for that day. We will be forced to cancel, leaving our local musicians, artists at a loss for that day. Places like Escape Modesto will have to unfairly cancel reservations they've already made and booked in advance. Again, our intention is never to shut down anything that would bring the community together. We love Modesto and we love our community. However, asking local businesses who have survived the hardships of COVID-19 to give over their Saturday sales to non-local vendors while we shut our doors is wrong. It goes against what our town and community should stand for. So we're just asking, please move Taco Fest to another location that does not take away from already hurting businesses. And we've actually walked around and talked to just local businesses, kind of all of our neighbors, and to see, just what they thought about it. And we had a list of everybody that that's on our street that actually signed and is in favor of asking you guys just to please move that location.
All right, I appreciate your comments. I really think probably the best thing going forward is if you could give your information to Scotty Douglas.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like, there's a lot of different topics that would have to be
Right,
discussed
right.
and kind of figured out. And that way we can follow up and reach out to you and have that discussion.
Okay.
And I'm always available to meet and talk or do whatever is necessary to
All
go
right.
further.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right. Online, I see Kyle Seaver.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Could you start my time? It's already like 15 seconds in.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm Trevor Seaver's brother, Kyle Seaver. I do appreciate Steve for standing up. I was referring to the city of Modesto being responsible for my brother's murder. You guys have not taken responsibility or action on Joseph LaMattia. Modesto Police Department, you're still paying Alex Bettis for training, annual SWAT training, April 26th through April 29th. Alex Bettis, along with Joseph LaMattia, murdered Omar Villagomez, who was unarmed, Kim Jackson, who had 2 knives, which they lied about using a beanbag round. They said they used a beanbag round. It was actually a breaching round, which is a lethal round. Alex Bettis was also involved in the murder of Garrett Schmidt, who was also unarmed. The DA, Bridget Flanagan, also said that a beanbag round was fired at Kim Jackson. I don't know what y'all are waiting for, if you're waiting for Joseph LaMattia to finally go to prison. Man's killed 5 people, and it's pretty disgusting that if you're a resident in the city of Houston, that you could go to the grocery store or the gas station and the man pumping gas to you or the man paying for groceries right next to you murdered 5 people. 5 people, and y'all let him out. It's a menace to society. Our streets are not safe with him out there. Alex Bettis has also murdered 3 people. He's also a menace to our society. He also puts us in danger by being out on the streets. I don't understand what y'all are waiting for. You need the Department of Justice to come in and reopen all of Joseph LaMattia's previous murders. But sooner or later, y'all have to realize the murder of Trevor Seaver is not disappearing, and it's not going away. The whole world is going to know about this. The city of Modesto is going to be known for this. The city of Modesto is going to be known for meth, car theft, and a serial killer police officer that was funded through the city and allowed through the city to continually get off. Y'all have to take accountability. You have to realize your actions are they're gonna catch up to you one day. You're gonna have to face that. You have to look yourself in the mirror at night. You guys have families. You live in this city. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you. Next person, Steve.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool, thank you. Transparency is not only an ideal that many people desire when it comes to policing, but it is also 100% essential to a democratic society. Democracy requires transparency. Fascism does not. So every single person in this community should be on board with promoting transparency, especially when it comes to public officials like city council members, mayors, city managers, police departments, definitely including the chief of police, county district attorneys, everyone under their employ. I'm very, very concerned about how nobody seems to care that interim police chief Brandon Gillespie has told blatant lies to our community. He has not explained why he tried to use the investigation against Trevor Seaver preceding his murder by Brandon's department. That investigation into the supposed social media comments was a nice tool for him, but it doesn't seem like it panned out. But he has not taken responsibility for the fact that he brought it up when it was convenient. That still has not been addressed. Furthermore, I remain very disheartened about the apathy in this community regarding hate groups coming into town and hijacking our community to promote their organization. I am very concerned about the fact that a member of one of those hate groups spoke in your chamber recently and made the statement that they have several friends in the Modesto Police Department. No one in that room right now has had anything to say to either deny it or confirm it. Now, when we think of transparency, obviously that's a problem, because all that's going to do is make us more afraid and make us wonder, is this cop over here a Proud Boy? Or was that guy just talking a bunch of hot air? I would encourage you to take a stand. And I'm also very concerned that the sheriff of Stanislaus County, I just learned, is speaking at an event coming up held by a hate group. Like, what is going on in the Central Valley? I want to leave you just by encouraging you to take a stand, Mayor Wallen, just like the mayor of Placerville, California did, when he made a very clear statement saying that white supremacists and the like have no place in their town. We need to hear that from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ramon Rodriguez.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm still speaking on behalf of supporting the Civilian Review Board. And also I learned that another city that has a program similar to Cahoots, and that city is Denver, Colorado. Denver, Colorado recently had a program called the STAR, which is, I forgot what the name, but it's STAR. And they did a 6-month pilot testing, and it resulted in 0 arrest, 0 cop interaction on mental health and substance abuse crisis. And that program saved the city countless resources and money. Even their Denver police chief loves the program, that it's a lifesaver for his department and letting their officers do their job. Their job is policing and not attending a mental health crisis. So if Chief Gillespie is listening to this, he should contact the Denver police chief and learn more about the STAR program and how he can implement in Modesto. And also, I am speaking on behalf of Trevor Seaver and why we need a civilian review board, because obviously these hate groups that claim to be patriots and all, they want to keep the status quo. They don't want accountability because it's a communist conspiracy. And I'm upset that the city did not take action on the June 22nd city council meeting. And also a lot of misguided people supporting the Thin Blue Line. I was in Loveland, Colorado last Tuesday online. And many residents stood up against the Loveland Police Department because of secret deals that the chief and one of the council members did with something about a secret contracting on social media without informing the city, in violation of open public records at Colorado. This is why we need accountability. This is why we need a civilian review board really bad, because it will make our community safer. It will make people confident to file a complaint against a problematic officer, just in the case of Alonso Nunes, because still he is still traumatized and he has a warrant for his arrest for something that he did not do because the system failed him. So I'm considering that we need changes right now, a civilian review board and a mental health intervention program for Modesto as soon as possible. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is Elaine Brown.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just am commenting because I've been seeing what's going on in Modesto the past month with, I don't want to call it a race war, but that's sort of what it's going to become if, action isn't taken, because we've seen this happen in other cities, particularly Sacramento, Placerville, Washington, D.C. It's a very slippery slope, and I'm warning not only the city council, but the residents of Modesto as well to stand up against this hate, because they're taking valuable time away from the city of Modesto to address actual issues that should be addressed within the community, and not obvious issues like, the Joseph LaMantia being charged for the murder of Trevor Seaver. That's a very obvious issue. And it's very disheartening to see the mayor of Modesto not take a bigger stand against these hate groups, because that's what they are. They're hate groups. They were designated a hate group in Canada. When I say they, I'm talking about the Proud Boys. These Proud Boys were allowed to come into the city council meeting and just spread their rhetoric, and it's very dangerous. And like the past people who have spoke said, you have to take a stand against it, or else it's not going to go away, and the real issues that are within the city are not going to be addressed. And like the Pool Police Advisory Board and Oversight Committee, that's something that the Seaver family has been trying to get addressed, and it's sort of been stalled now because of the Proud Boys, and it's depressing, because we're all trying to coexist and live in not only Modesto, but the surrounding areas as well. And many of these people who are coming to speak on behalf of Joseph LaMantia aren't even from this area, and maybe a few are, but they definitely don't speak for all of Modesto or all of Turlock or Ceres or wherever you are in this area. And so I'm just urging you guys to be very cautious in the next couple of months, because they've been basically alienated from every other city, so they're trying to now come to Modesto. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is JK.
Thank you. Yes, jail killer cops. Trevor Seaver, say his name, justice for Trevor Seaver. I'm here to speak on those concerns brought up by other community members. And I want to just kind of go back to what the last speaker mentioned about the peanut butter boys. I'm sorry, the proud baby boys. I hope that the city council continues to do Zoom over these next months, maybe for the rest of our time here. Apparently, I was warned about a woman that was with the peanut butter boys there at the city council meeting last meeting, who was tested positive for COVID. And, so everybody in that space was, put at risk. So I'd like for you guys to consider that. And then I'm still worried and concerned, very concerned about the translation about these spaces not being provided unless you request it. I don't know that people who don't speak English or are more comfortable with Spanish, for example, even know that this meeting would be a meeting that they want to attend, because none of your documents are translated, which brings me to another concern with the moving forward event. You guys did a very poor job at translating during that event. You only translated when the city council members spoke. None of the comments by our peers or our community residents was translated. I hope that you have somebody in person with the headphones translating, just like the county meetings provide. And then another concern with translation, sorry, I'm outside, the ghetto birds are here. The general plan has just been recently approved to move forward. And if SB 1000 claims that the communities who are most affected by environmental injustices are low-income people of color, you better translate those documents. And I don't feel comfortable that you guys are going to do good at community outreach unless that piece is taken care of. And so I think, I kind of been derailed a little bit by all of this. So I just want to make sure that the moving forward the Forward Together sessions that are coming up starting on Tuesday of next week have translation. And then I'm really concerned that the sheriff, Jeff Dirksey, who was recently killed, Xander Mann, is part of this committee. Maybe he wasn't the one there, but he's definitely justifying the police officer that killed him. He wasn't even wearing a camera. I'm not sure that we can really rely on such liars and people who are not transparent, who are part of a department, who are also criminally, should be held criminally accountable, or should be part of that committee. And so I'd like to know, is that committee going to be able to vote any group out, for example, the Modesto Police Officers Association or Jeff Dirksey? Because those two should not be part of any of these meetings Forward Together. I believe that they should be in attendance and should be listening, but to be part of that committee is there's something very wrong with that. But thank you. Please consider proper translation of SB 1000 general plans and the moving forward together. Thanks.
Right.
Justice for Trevor Seaver.
Right. Thank you. In person, we have Emerson Drake.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good evening.
Members of the council, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to point out, we see the clock in front of me right now. If you're at home, or you're on your cell phone, or you're on a laptop, as I watched a gentleman over here, all you see is the circle. There's nothing on the left, there's nothing on the right. There's actually, on a full-size cell, there's a 3/4 by 3/8 inch picture that no one can read, and that's all you get to see at home. You can't do anything else. Now, we need to change this. If this is considered part of transparency, you're going to have to explain transparency to me. As long as we're talking about that, I made a public record request about the SWAT team costs, and it was interesting. I asked for all the paperwork that was signed off by the city manager or his designee, but I didn't receive it. Not all of it. Some was held back, not personal information. Nobody wanted that in the first place. We were just trying to see where the costs were going and how we arranged for Bettis to go and how we covered his costs. I'm going to guess, although the documentation wasn't provided, even though I asked for all, that we're going to get the money back from the DA. I still have to wonder why we bothered. Now, we've talked a few times here about a city auditor. And if you want to see the people, ladies and gentlemen at home, I'm going to talk to them too, ma'am. If you want to watch this council squirm, ask them about a city auditor, not the one, we need an independent auditor for the police, but I'm talking about for the city. Ever since we had to pay over $200,000 in hush money to get rid of somebody who threatened the city attorney's, let's just call it monetary stream. It's exactly what it was. His company's monetary stream. We turned around and chased a woman out of Modesto because she was simply doing her job. And they're afraid. Come on, I went over to the meeting too. We've listened to all this. They don't want a city auditor. And when it comes to the moving forward, I've expressed some concerns. You can't tell me how many people that are on that committee that were appointed by their organizations actually live in Modesto. You can't tell me. And I can't for the life of me understand why anybody should be on that committee that doesn't live in Modesto. You'd have to explain that to me, and I haven't heard one yet. Last but not least for today, you used to have a little deal on Mondays called the pre-agenda meeting, where it was a publicly agendized meeting. You had a chance to learn everything that was going to be on the agenda, ask questions of staff. The public had a chance to ask questions of staff. That's not available anymore, I'm sure it was due to COVID. But we need to reinstitute that. The idea that somebody can go around and daisy chain talking to one or two people at a time, and not to suggest they're garnering information and sharing that, is ludicrous. We need to get back to openness, and we don't have that right now. I'd be willing to entertain any questions if you want to try, and I know you're not going to, that's all right. When you want to talk about openness, but you don't talk about openness. We need a city auditor. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I just have to make one comment that earlier today I had a meeting with our city manager and the agenda reviews are on the calendar to come back. So I just wanted to make that comment. Next speaker is Darlene Ruiz.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Good evening.
I'm honored and proud mother of Trevor Seaver. I appreciate you giving me this platform to be my son's voice. As many of you know, Trevor was murdered by Joseph LaMattia, December 29, 2020. First, the Civilian Review Board is to help our community bring transparency to our police department. It's beyond horrific and devastating to our family to have lost Trevor in the way we have. But through our grieving, we have continued to be at every city council meeting every week to try and make things better in our community, to honor Trevor's name and make sure Trevor's legacy can make a positive change that are needed in our community. I'm saddened that myself and my family have had to have a police escort to the back doors to go to our cars after a city council meeting because threats from the Proud Boys organization. We should all be able to voice our opinions without being threatened. My family is grieving the loss of Trevor, and to be threatened when all we're trying to do is make our city safer is sad, and bullying should not be tolerated. Another way I believe we can make things better is through an independent police auditor. We cannot fix what is broken until we acknowledge what needs to be fixed. 10 people were killed by Modesto police from 2013, one being my son. There are approximately 240 sworn police officers in Modesto. Out of the 240 officers, just one officer has killed 5 of the 10 killings we've had. Half of all the people that lost their lives from the hands of the police officer was by one officer, Joseph LaMattia. How was this officer able to continue his killing spree and take my son's life? How, as a community, are we not looking closer to accountability for police officers that clearly should have been stopped long ago and my son's life would have been spared? An independent police auditor can help identify officers that clearly are coloring outside the line before they become serial killers. California Attorney General Ron Bonta just launched teams to investigate deadly police shootings in California to restore trust in police and the public. We need to stop having police themselves. We need to have them be held accountable, and they need to be investigated by a separate organization without a conflict of interest. I would also like a National Trevor Day for December 29th. Justice for Trevor. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I do not see any more comments online, and I do not have any additional blue cards for public comment. Oh, sorry. Okay, we have Ray Ruiz.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you, and I'll be brief. I just kind of want to reiterate what Darlene said, and I just want to say how in favor I am Modesto getting a civilian review board. But I don't think that Modesto can set it up themselves. So that's where an independent police auditor, and I'm going to sound like a broken record because I've talked about this guy before, but Michael Giannaco out of Los Angeles, who can help with police practices, help set up the civilian review board, because I think it's really important that Modesto do it correctly. This guy has been doing it for many years. Not only has he done cities like Chicago and Oakland, Anaheim, he's also done smaller cities like Modesto, like Lompoc, Vallejo Davis. He can come in, look under the hood, and set this whole thing up for us. And I think that's probably the best way to do it, is have an expert and his team come in and help out Modesto. We're not against police. We would like to get things set up correctly. Many times people don't, I've heard many people say they're against the civilian review board, but if you own a restaurant, an independent inspector comes in all the time just to check out how you're doing. So there's nothing wrong with the independent police auditor to come in, set the whole thing up for us, and I think we'll become a better city because of it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else that would wish to come forward to speak under public comment? And I do not see anyone else online. All right, so that will end our public comment period. Thank you all. Will the city clerk please read the consent items?
Yes, Mayor. Item number 5, consider approving the minutes from the July 6, 2021 council meeting. Item number 6 has been removed from consent. Item number 7, consider final adoption of ordinance number 3731. Item 8, consider appointing a voting delegate to the 2021 League of California Cities annual conference to be held in Sacramento on September 22nd through 24th, 2021. Item 9, consider accepting the public improvements of Vintage Unit 3 subdivision and releasing securities upon expiration of statutory periods. Item 10, consider accepting the public improvements of Vintage 4 subdivision and releasing securities upon expiration of statutory periods. Item 11, consider approving the final map and subdivision agreement of Icon at the Village subdivision located south of Sharon Avenue and between Yellowhammer Lane and Snowy Egret Street, west of Claus Road. Item 12, consider approving the final map and subdivision agreement of Metro at the Village subdivision located southeast of Floyd Avenue at Roselle Avenue. Item 13, consider approving an amendment to the purchasing agreement for office supplies and furniture to Staples, Office Depot, and Wardens for an increase in the annual estimated amount from $250,000 to $300,000, and consider a second amendment to the purchasing agreement with Amazon Business for an online marketplace for products to increase the annual estimated amount by $50,000. Item 14, consider approving the First Amendment, increasing the agreement between amount with CCS Facility Services for custodial services and supplies for a one-time increase of $50,000 and an annual estimated cost increase by $13,000 to a revised total amount not to exceed $5,122,080 over 7 years, and consider approving a third amendment increasing the agreement with First Alarm Wellness for COVID-19 management services by $50,000. Item 15, consider approving a lease agreement with the State of California State Lands Commission for construction use and maintenance of approximately 3,056 square feet of land in the Tuolumne River to the planned location of the Nice Drive boat launch. Item 16, consider approving a lease agreement with New Singular Wireless PCS LLC for a co-located cell tower lease at Ustack Park. Item 17, consider approving an agreement with LDA Partners for completion of construction document design services for the Dryden Clubhouse renovation project in the amount of $295,000 plus $29,500 for additional services if needed. Item 18, consider an ordinance amending Municipal Code Section 3-2.1401.1 to determine and designate speed limit changes. Item 19, consider approving an agreement with TJKM for transportation and engineering services for a cost not to exceed $700,000. Item 20, consider accepting the plans and specifications for the rebid Sutter Sanitary Sewer Trunk Rehabilitation Project, Phase 1, and awarding a construction contract to Mazingo Construction in the amount of $3,237,314 plus $388,478 for contingency if needed. And item 21, consider accepting the upgrade traffic signals project as complete and releasing payments totaling $784,517 to St. Francis Electric LLC.
Move to approve all consent items except item number
Number 6.
six. Item number 6.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Canoyer and a second from Councilmember Zalaki to approve all consent items except number 6. Will the city clerk please do the roll call?
Councilmembers Ricky,
Aye.
Zalaki,
Aye.
Canoyer,
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
Eskisha Brayton,
Aye.
Madrigal,
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
Aye, so it carries unanimously. So item number 6 has been pulled, and this is to consider final adoption of ordinance number 3730-CS, amending sections 9-4.201B, 9-4.201M, 9-4.201W, 9-4.201AM, 9-4.302, 9-4.402A6, 9-4.02D22, 9-4-501C1, 9-4.501C52A, and 9-4.603F, and adding section 9-4.307 to Chapter 4 Floodplain Management of Title IX, Building Regulations of the Modesto Municipal Code to adopt flood hazard maps, designate a floodplain administrator, and providing for severability and an effective date. And all right, ask for Mr. French to speak with a brief staff report. Thank you.
Very brief. Thank you, Mayor. As you read, this is the second reading and final adoption of an ordinance change that was approved by the council at the last meeting. The long and the short of it is FEMA has initiated changes or updates to their FIRM maps, their flood insurance rate maps. There were no significant changes to this area, but in the process of updating and changing those maps, they are also reviewing local jurisdictions' policies and procedures as it pertains to our code in this regard. And so what was read very lengthily is the code changes that were required by FEMA to become consistent with their policies. So with that, I'd be happy to answer the question from the public.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council members? All right, seeing none, we have one blue card for this item, Emerson Drake.
Good evening again. I guess I should say Emerson Drake, longtime Modesto resident. When you announced the names, I figured it. Anyway. You know, last week, the main reason I'm here, quite honestly, tonight, otherwise I'd been telecommuting, if you will, is that when this came up for the committee meeting, or for the city council meeting, Councilman Wright had a follow-up question or a question about it. He asked it, I'm going to paraphrase, I'm not trying to pin you down here, if it would affect any homes in Modesto, more or less. And we got a staggered, hesitant, yes. Well, when that happened, and then there was silence. So all of us, when I realized all of a sudden that there weren't going to be any more questions by you and nobody else here was going to do it, I made the immediate jab on the phone because I'm watching on the computer, trying to get a bigger screen, you understand. I like watching the big zero. I thought this would be 5 minutes, but that's okay. But there was no follow-up, and even though my hand was raised, you went on past. Yeah, oh, I know. I'm not, it's a moot point. But that's why I came tonight. Now, I don't know, because of the lack of those pre-agenda meetings, it's hard to understand sometimes what's going on. I used to make those on a regular basis because you could ask your questions there. And forgive me, because I'm still playing back and forth. So you ask if it affected homes. I'm curious, do we have any of these maps available? Are these just maps that'll come about in the future? I mean, quite honestly, I don't know. Or if it does affect people now, I'd like to know how. I mean, I'm not an insurance agent, so I'm not gonna sell them flood insurance, that's not the point. But, you know, all these codes don't mean anything to most of us. My guess is it didn't mean anything to any of you either, no offense. Maybe it did. Maybe you're experts on these codes and you had them down pat. That's why you didn't ask any questions. But again, since I have to ask the questions all at once and I can't engage in a conversation, I'm gonna ask you if there's any maps. Do we know of any particular housing areas or homes that these are going to particularly affect? What are the ramifications of any effects? And how's it going to affect building on these properties? Now, if you don't know the answers, that's fine. But if you do know the answers, inquiring minds would like to know. Now, I'll go sit back down because I can't talk to him once I leave. And that's wrong. Because sometimes when you ask a question, it begets another question. But since the last 2 years, quite honestly, eventually Mayor Brandvold was willing to allow a limited exchange as a follow-up, because if you don't know, how can you ask all your questions? And I think that's reasonable, but this city council has changed those rules and says, no, you can't do this conversation. So, do we have any knowledge of any maps? What areas do they affect? I mean, you can't be just agreeing to something and not know what you're agreeing to. And I'd like to know for the future whether it's 3 or 5 minutes on a consent item. Actually, that was beside the point. But I'm just curious. What does this mean to us? Are people, I'll just leave it at that. I'll do a follow-up question later.
All right, thank you for your comments. And we're happy to take anyone's contact information, email, and then have that exchange to get every question answered.
But this is the time to answer those questions. This is when the public needs to know before you vote what you're voting on. If I ask any of you, can you answer these questions? I'm just asking. I think it's important. If we have to go along with it, we have to go along with it. But why aren't we answering questions in a real time? If he knows about a map, he should tell us. I don't want to do it on an email exchange. The public doesn't read the email exchange.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, would you like to make a comment, Mr. French? Thank you.
Yes, we do have responses to those questions. So as I stated in the brief presentation, there were no significant changes, really no changes to the mapping in the Modesto area. Now, when we answered the question at the last meeting, here's why we answered it the way we did, and that houses could be affected. The firm maps went from a very coarse level of detail where not every street, not every exact line was on the maps to a very refined and detailed mapping using aerial footages, additional recorder information, parcel map information. And so it went to a very refined map. And these maps are available on FEMA's website. I have sent them to council. We'd be happy to share them with anyone in the public who has requested this information. This information has been shared. And so going from the coarse mapping to the very refined mapping, we wanted to ensure that we answered the question in the most accurate way possible, that some houses could be caught between that coarse and that refined mapping. So that was the answer that we provided. That is accurate. These maps are available on the FEMA website and available to the public.
All right, thank you very much. So I will bring this item back to the council for action. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed another hand. Thank you for the reminder. It says BT, Brian.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the United States was suddenly and deliberately attacked by the Empire of Japan.
All right. I'll bring it back to council. I don't see any other hands raised. Oh, all right. We prefer that, but feel free. Just wait till you're at the microphone and then everyone can hear. Thank you.
To address Mr. Drake here and you, there are maps. In 2016, the project was approved and it's going to go out kind of in the county, right? That's why it's not in that area. And what you're doing is you've taken a dump that was there 50 years ago, you dug it up, and then you built it up. So now you're going to affect the Riverdale Park Track water. It's already bad water. People are getting sick. There's been fires. It's just gross, man. I live out there. So how does that work? The river's
All
already
right,
so
so you
far
have
down.
to address your comments this way to the council.
All right, the river's already so far down that you're gonna put sewage that's feeding all of our food, that's feeding drinking water. And what better way to tell you're low income and worth nothing than let you look over a whole bunch of feces pools? Doesn't that seem pretty gross? I'm low income. It's pretty sad. So that's it. And I like
Thank you.
Mr. Drake.
Thank
Let's work
you.
together.
Right. I don't see any further comments. Do I have a motion?
I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Sure, go ahead. Councilmember Madrigal.
So yeah, the comments that this last speaker made about the sewer concern me, can staff just address that? You know, the accuracy or if there is no impact as was stated?
Yeah, I'm not specifically aware of the map that was referenced. Flood insurance rate maps have to do with flood zones on property. It really doesn't have to do with any sort of specific development project or sewer in that type of area. So I can't, without looking at the map that was referenced, be able to answer that question in any more detail than it was just provided.
All right, thank you.
Is there any way, Madam Mayor, is there just any way that we can have the appropriate staff just follow up with this last speaker?
Yes, absolutely. We always
try to address her concerns and, you know, see what we could do, because I mean, I definitely don't want us to be sending that type of message to low-income communities that are serviced by any of our utilities services as a city of Modesto. I hope I'm not the only one. I'm sure I'm not.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Madrigal, and Scotty Douglas has already made the connection to get that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
I have a question or
All right.
comment.
Go right ahead.
So, Jalen, let me ask you a question. So, this is the map. Being an insurance broker, I'm a little familiar with the flood map. So, basically what it is just telling a community what the chances of having a flood in an area over a 100-year period. Am I correct?
Yes.
So it doesn't change insurance rates. It doesn't preclude for anyone from building on that area if they want to build on that area, but it just gives information to the consumer or to a city on what areas could be flooded over a 100-year period if we had a major storm or there was release of water from the reservoirs, what areas would flood. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I just wanted to make that comment that it is something that the federal government lets us know what areas could be flooded if there was an issue.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion for item number 6 on the consent agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to pass item number 6.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Scudia Brayton,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Wright, and roll call, please.
Councilmembers Ricky,
Aye.
Solaki,
Aye.
Canoyer,
Aye.
Aye.
Eskisha Brayton,
Aye.
Madrigal,
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next is council comments and reports. Do I have any council members that would like to make a comment or a report? Seeing none at this time.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, just
It was on, okay, so this is the first time I've used this because
Hello?
we're in person. So it's on the top, Councilmember Ricky.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last week we talked a little bit about how our police department and the council are working together to make Modesto safer. I think that's great. Last week I spoke with the chief of police about what we talked about in terms of dash cams last week, and he said that that was something they're already doing. So that's spectacular. And again, I want to thank the police department for addressing concerns that include transparency and protects both officers and the public. And so that's really amazing. I'm also excited to see us all working together for the Forward Together project that's coming up. It's all the different segments of our community represented, trying to work together to make Modesto safer. And I'm really excited about that. I'm also excited to hear about the National Night Out. I'm going to be posting links on my website and in my social media if you want to sign up to throw a party for National Night Out. It's a lot of fun. I really recommend it. It's a good way to get involved in your neighborhood. Finally, I want to again talk about the National App Competition that's coming up. This is a competition for our high school students here in Modesto and throughout the country to develop apps for computers and phones. It's a really great thing. The winners from our community will get the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and connect with other programmers throughout the country, and it's just going to be a really incredible experience. So I'm excited that the City of Modesto are part of it. Thanks so much, Mayor.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Canoyer.
Yes, I do. I have a couple of things. On Friday, I attended via Zoom the Central Valley Rail Working Group, and it's very interesting because that group, we meet 4 times a year, and it was an update on the ACE train, the Amtrak, and basically the high-speed rail. It talked all about all the innovations and how many of these train will be coming to fruition soon, and we will see in the valley having more access to a good rail system. And then also, and I wasn't the only one, several council members went to the youth navigation grand opening, and it was really exciting to see such a wonderful place for young people who, from the ages of 12 to 26, have a place to come. And the thing that I was really impressed with is that they have a low barrier shelter for these young people, which is really, really important. So anyhow, that was the 2 things that I thought was important that I did.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Madrigal?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Real quick, just wanted to share that last week we had I had a meeting with our economic development director for our monthly economic development report, and had a very productive meeting. We discussed, we were basically kind of brainstorming on different ideas of what we think opportunities are for economic development in the city, everything ranging from the future of downtown to development in either West Modesto, in some of our opportunity sites. I'm just very excited about what we could still do in Modesto when it comes to economic development. And also had a chance to follow up on a couple of specific items, such as our sidewalk vendor ordinance, and how that's rolling out and being implemented, and I just look forward to seeing more and more come out of economic development. I did want to just plant the seed that, if there's any slowdown in our economic development department, I think that we as a council ought to consider investing in any additional necessary staffing. I mean, if there was ever a time for us to really invest the necessary resources for economic development, in addition to what we're doing, like say for example with our general plan and whatnot, I think now is the time. I just think that we have ideas, we have visions and goals about how our city economy can grow, and I think that if we need to have the necessary addition of staffing in that department, then we should talk about it as a city in the coming months, under whether it's what do you call it, mid-year budget adjustments or whatnot. This is just something that just came to mind to me, and I just thought I'd share it with y'all, for thought and possible future agendizing. And I also wanted to share that we had a special League of California Cities Board of Directors meeting to discuss the governance restructuring report by a consultant that was hired that basically is looking at ways to reduce the barriers for city council members across California to be able to get involved and get engaged in our League of Cities in leadership roles, and to continue to fight for our cities at the state level, which impacts us here at the local level. That's all for now. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Scudia-Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring attention to the fact that the mayor and I met last week with representatives from the U.S. Senator Padilla's office, and we had an excellent exchange of communication in regards to how we could collaborate our two offices, and brought attention to the many successes and best practices that Modesto has in regards to water recycling, and they were very interested in learning more about those best practices. All in all, the conversation was very fruitful and indicating that we wanted to continue to elaborate further on projects of mutual interest, and just ensure each other's success. So the line of communication was definitely expanded, and it was, like I said, a very fruitful meeting.
Right, thank you. I don't see any other council members wanting to speak at this time. Does the city manager have any comments and reports? All right, you're welcome. So we're on to new business. Item number 22, consider approving the award and agreement for the housing plan SB2 to Opticos Design Incorporated, Berkeley, California, for a total of $355,805, including a $10,000 contingency, for a total amount not to exceed $365,805. So Jalen French, thank you.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Jalen French, Community Economic Development Director. So exciting news, busy times for CED, Community and Economic Development Department, as we take on two of the kind of major priority areas. First with the general plan at the last meeting, and now with a housing plan, with housing being one of the top priorities. So we've all seen demand and prices for housing increase, not only in Modesto, Central Valley, but across California. And so the question of how to address the housing shortage intensifies. Goal C of the relatively recently adopted City Council strategic plan is to develop homelessness and housing plans. And so I think in both areas, our city is making significant strides, and this will go a long way to accomplishing those goals. So the state has also prioritized heavily the production of housing. It's one of their top priorities. So to that end, they have made various monies available. The city of Modesto received $625,000 in SB2 funds. The primary document or effort coming out of that will be this housing plan. with council adoption here, and you see a list of the other things that we are doing with that $625,000. So we funded a portion of the downtown master plan. It specifically talked about housing. We are updating or preparing accessory dwelling unit or ADU plans. So those are available over the counter for someone to kind of have tailor-made plans. Updating our permitting tracking software, and then using some money to update the housing element, which will be a part of, or is a part of the general plan. So really the money is intended for planning purposes, to help expand housing opportunities. And so we will link this plan with some of the other housing related plans that we have done and will undertake. So the purpose of the housing plan is to truly identify the barriers to and opportunities for robust housing in Modesto. And so I really want to highlight those two areas: barriers to housing and opportunities for housing. In every city in California, and some unique to Modesto, there are certain impediments to timely and robust housing production. So this plan will specifically develop strategies to mitigate these impediments, while at the same time identifying greater opportunities for increased production. So this will include things like, development downtown, density with a purpose, redevelopment of existing uses, ADUs, looking at our processing, all of that. This plan will coordinate with others, as I mentioned, including our general plan update, to, again, limit the barriers and identify opportunities. So just a quick discussion on the timeline. As we do with these types of documents, we released a request for proposal, an RFP. We received a couple proposals which were evaluated by an internal and external review committee. And overall, Opticoast Design was selected as the most responsive and best qualified firm. So you may remember Opticoast Design was also the firm that helped the city with the downtown master plan. Now they also have an arm of their company which deals specifically with housing issues. So I thought we were missing a slide here, but so I wanted to talk specifically about the scope of the document. There are 7 areas in which the consultant will help us with the document, 7 things that they will focus on. 3 are really in the opportunity, or 2 are kind of in the opportunity stage, and then 4 are in the barrier stage. So like all good plans, they will start with a visioning process and some robust public engagement or public outreach. They will identify several opportunity sites and analyze those. They will look at the infrastructure and services available to serve those opportunity sites. So that's kind of on the opportunity side. On the barrier side, consultants will analyze current regulatory structure and zoning standards for opportunities to streamline housing delivery and production at scale. They will assess Modesto's housing policies and review across and state policies for policies that we could potentially update, modify, or incorporate. We'll analyze barriers to housing, including governmental and non-governmental barriers, and then review the city's entitlement process for recommendations for improvement. So those are the 7 things that the document will really cover. And so the recommendation tonight on this exciting effort is to approve the housing plan SB2 agreement to evaluate and expand housing opportunities with Opticoast Design, the selected consultant of Berkeley, California, for an amount of $355,000 with a $10,000 contingency. And then take necessary steps to execute the agreement. So that concludes the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council or the public may have.
All right, questions from council. Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Jalen. Will this company be looking what the county might have planned and trying to maybe coordinate with the county on any projects that they may be having? And also, would they be looking for the cities that are starting to butt up to Modesto to see what their plans are?
Yeah, I think that will primarily, and where you're going with this, that'll primarily be addressed in the general plan. This document will be specific to some of our housing and won't necessarily look at beyond our current boundaries where we may move into the future, but we'll definitely address those areas in the general plan update.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any further questions from council members? Seeing none, we will go to the public, and I have Jeffrey Williams. Pardon me? Okay, all right. Kalina Hensley? Sure, Anthony Arosa. Welcome, Anthony.
Good evening, Council. Mayor Suswala. There we go. How about
Hi,
now?
thank you.
Yeah, good evening, Council. Mayor Suswala. My name's Anthony Araza. I'm a resident of Modesto, 24 years, not too long. But even more, I'm a community organizer here in Stanislaus County with the organization Faith in the Valley. We are a faith-based grassroots community organization in the California Central Valley, representing families in Fresno, Kern, Merced, Stanislaus, and San Joaquin counties. And we are a coalition of residents, faith leaders, and community organizations that spans from Stockton all the way to Kern. Our coalition is led by volunteers who are among the people most impacted by equity issues, and we're here speaking about housing. I'm here to talk about the housing issues as well as agenda item 22. Amidst a pandemic which has shed light on the profound economic contradictions which exist in our city, many in our community have been evicted or displaced as a result of a deeply problematic housing structure. As a part of a county where 15,485 low-income renter households are without access to an affordable home, this exacerbates the housing crisis in our city alone. We see increased instances of community members experiencing houselessness and the inability to afford a roof over their head. To add on to that, Modesto is a part of a county where renters need to earn about $24 per hour, roughly 1.8 times the state's minimum wage, to afford the monthly asking rent of $1,237. These are just a few of many issues facing people in our community amidst a housing crisis impacting all of our Central Valley. To point to Housing Plan SB2, we urge the City Council to form a local housing committee to work side by side with Opticos in order to create a comprehensive housing plan for the City of Modesto that will include construction but also address the longstanding housing issues affecting our city. Building housing alone cannot solve the issues related to housing itself. We ask for a comprehensive housing plan that will prioritize neighborhoods which have long been neglected in our city. We urge you to read the community's Central Valley Action Plan to Stabilize Housing. This was presented by Faith in the Valley and sent to the council itself as well as the mayor. Our broad coalition developed an action plan that comes directly from people impacted by an economic structure which exploits and displaces many folks, which displaces many people in our community. This comes directly from impacted people by the economic structure of Black, Indigenous, and people of communities of colors who have long experienced the practice of and struggle and pain of multi-generational racist land and housing laws, policies, and practices. Those are the people who informed this action plan. Some ideas from this plan include contracting with local grassroots organizations who have a history of working alongside neighborhoods that have been disenfranchised. There is also much needed outreach on statewide protections as well as emergency rent programs for tenants in our city. In addition to our action plan, we urge the City Council to consider a right to counsel program, which has been established in many jurisdictions across the nation. Civil right to counsel ensures that every eligible tenant has a right to an attorney when their housing is at stake. Right to counsel ensures tenants' rights are upheld and their voices are heard in eviction cases. We call upon the council to protect vulnerable families in our community by working with community members closest to the issues mentioned above. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, I see Demetrius Hall.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
I'm part of the homeless community, and the housing projects of the Modesto area that they have going on. It is for, to house people, but strictly to consider the non-homeless. They have shelters for them, and the housing with people in the parks is not due to a lack of housing for them. It is more of a, let's say, an American thing, because it's all over America, the homeless community. Now, a community is established of houses and people of alike as neighbors, but it is a community. It is a community. And like all other communities, they would like to stick together, and there's less quarrels, less problems in places when the community have their own housing as a community. I see a lot of money is being transferred around to other places, but a lack of it when it comes to the homeless being housed during these times. It's a lot of them are. They made it through the COVID-19 out in the streets, and the weathers of 100+ degrees with no housing and little shade, and so they try to go under the bridges or wherever it is that gets the shade. And these are all in rural places of Modesto where I'm pretty sure that they can have housings or a community built for them. They are American people. That's all I wanted to say and address to the City Council.
Thank you very much. I mentioned Kalina, is that? Okay. Hensley?
Yep.
Thank you.
Kalina Hensley, Minister Advocate of Universal Life Church. My grandparents founded it. Long time person, 40 years there. I'm right across the street from Cesar Chavez Park. There is so much of a disparity in between people where they can stay. Abatement comes, rolls people for their tents, their stuff. Then they have nowhere to go. They're chased off places. The cost of lumber, sorry, I can't look at you. Cost of lumber is so expensive right now. There are prefabricated homes that you could just throw up. Boom, boom, boom. Safe spaces. What about the golf course? Why can't that be a place? Seniors, veterans, those who are in need, low income. It's really difficult. As well as, oh man, the treatment of people is just gross. And if you look at the HUD website, oh man, billions of dollars per year go to this county, Stanislaus County, to house people. Low-income housing, where's it going? So that's really a big question and concern for me. You come to the park, you roll my people off the park, you herd them, you take their IDs, then they have to go sit at the Access Center. Yep, a lot of them are unwell. A lot of them are on drugs. It's just how it goes. We are affected, but if we don't work together, none of us are gonna make it. Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any other comments from the public? I see Pastor Latricia.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Sorry. Well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Pastor Latricia Beasley Day, and I am a 14-year Modesto resident who is a housing renter. I am also a community organizer with Faith in the Valley and a staff pastor at Victory and Praise Church of Modesto. I believe housing to be essential and a basic human right. In my 18 years of associate pastoring in Modesto and 2+ years as a community organizer with Faith in the Valley, many people have reached out regarding their housing being in jeopardy. During this season of pandemic, pre and post-pandemic now, I've had the pleasure of meeting and working with some of our most vulnerable people and our unhoused neighbors, those living in our parks, alleys, their automobiles, just to name a few. Yearly, I see and hear from a number of renters who are displaced because we have allowed housing to be primarily for those who can show they make 3 times the rent, have a credit score of 620 and above, etc. These are the people who can have housing according to the standards currently in place. This leaves those who do not meet the standards set in place homeless. I have several people in our community that have found themselves evicted by landlords who were not operating in integrity of their property, meaning they did not want to fix broken items that a landlord is responsible for. When the tenant chose to stand for their housing, they were taken to court and evicted. Evictions go on record and do not allow a person to be able to rent for 7 years. Thus, they are wandering the streets with no place to call home, no safe haven for themselves, their children, etc. They land in our community parks and call it home for various reasons. Housing is and should be reviewed as a basic human right and should be affordable for all levels of income. Tenants who cannot afford attorney fees should have a right to counsel when going into eviction court against landlord or property manager attorneys. I come to you this evening in solidarity with a coalition of renters, homeowners, college professors, students, clergy, community leaders, community organizers, and legal and policy experts to urge the City Council to take swift and bold action to prevent homelessness and stabilize housing in our city. I urge you to implement the recommendations we have set forth for the Central Valley Action Plan. I urge you to form housing committee that will work together to develop comprehensive housing plan to ensure that in the years to come, every Modesto resident will have a safe, healthy environment that is affordable to call home. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for hearing and giving consideration to our request.
Right.
Blessings.
You're welcome. Thank you. Next is Janine.
Good evening, Council. My name is Dr. Janine Nkosi. I'm the Regional Advisor for Faith in the Valley and a Professor of Sociology at Fresno State. I've spent nearly a decade working alongside Central Valley residents to research and transform our deeply flawed housing system. Every year, a growing number of Valley residents are displaced because we treat housing as a commodity, something to be bought and sold for profit rather than as a common good. My home is my safe haven. It's a place where I can rest after a long day's work, where my family can celebrate accomplishments and milestones and create beautiful memories together. My home is my foundation, and without it, everything else would absolutely be unstable and at risk. I'm here tonight because this is not the reality for everyone in our communities, but it can and it must be. I'm here to join with the broad coalition of renters, professors and students, clergy leaders, community organizers, and legal and policy experts to urge you all to take swift and bold action to prevent homelessness and stabilize housing. Our coalition developed a comprehensive action plan that comes directly from system-impacted Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities who have long experienced the pain and struggle of racist land and housing laws, policies, and practices, and who have dedicated countless time, labor, and expertise to fight for a fair and just housing system that will benefit all of us. We would like clarification from the council if the agreement with Opticos for the development of a comprehensive housing plan includes a comprehensive rental housing plan to protect Modesto renters. While we are thankful that the city is taking action to address the housing crisis, we want to ensure that the voices of residents most directly impacted by the housing crisis are leading in this effort. It's our understanding that the Opticos plan is related to new construction, but does not include a plan for acquisition and preservation of rental housing, rehabilitation of rental housing, or renter protections, community education, or right to counsel in eviction court. Therefore, we urge the council to implement the recommendations in our Central Valley Action Plan as part of the housing plan that Optimos will develop We urge the council to also form a local housing committee that will bring together elected representatives, tenants of private rental housing, manufactured housing, public housing, and other subsidized housing, folks in our houseless community, city planners, affordable housing developers, clergy leaders, and CBOs who have a long history of working alongside people who have been disenfranchised from opportunity. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next is Tyler Jackson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. My name is, of course, Tylos Jackson. I'm the lead pastor of Victory and Praise Church in Modesto, 720 G Street, downtown. And I'm here to support and to stand in agreement with the Central Valley Action Plan to stabilize housing. I've seen congregants of various demographics, young, old, seniors, struggling just to keep their home, struggling just to keep their residency. And they have to make a choice of whether I'm going to feed my family or I'm going to pay this exorbitant amount for rent. And I've seen people make that choice to live in cars, people who were employed, people who were citizens that didn't want a handout. They just wanted to live the American dream. And I prayed with them. I helped them financially as I could. And I believe that we as a community, we as a people, we all have a struggle, but we all have the commodity, we all have the power within ourselves to help someone that is almost dead on the side of the road. And I believe firmly that this council and this mayor will support this plan to help stabilize our housing so that people will not be struggling in making that decision whether I am to feed my family or to be sheltered. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. All right. I don't see any more members of the public online. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Public comment period on this item? All right, I will take it back to the council. Are there any comments from council members? Councilmember Ricky.
How is this plan going to focus on affordable housing? Does it focus at all on affordable housing, or is it just universal, like all housing?
Sure.
I'm sorry, was it not question time? Is that right?
It's comment time. We did question time, and then we went to the public, and now it's comment time.
Sorry.
But that's all right.
So in a plan like this, affordable housing and market rate, it's going to look at everything, and it's comprehensive in a standpoint from a planning standpoint, right? It's not comprehensive in a standpoint of addressing every aspect relating to housing. So these are planning dollars we receive from the state to address the production of housing, which supply and demand would actually, improve affordable housing. But there is a section in here where they will actually look at ways we can improve the production of affordable housing as a specific category.
That's all I needed. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much for that. I just wanted to make a comment on this, that for several years, I've had the opportunity to work very closely with members of Faith in the Valley and recognize the efforts that they have put into this plan, and that's been through interfaith work on the Stanislaus County Interfaith Council, as well as multi-faith leaders in the community, and many conversations. So I just wanted to recognize their work and their efforts, and I have studied the action plan over the last few years. There's some really great information in there, and certainly know that we will continue to have discussions going forward, and I look forward to a working relationship to not take advantage of, but to glean information from the work that they have done. So I just wanted to make that comment and recognition. Councilmember Madrigal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following up on your comment, I've participated and engaged with Faith of the Valley as well over the last few years since their inception here in Modesto, and really appreciate their work in our historically underserved communities such as West and South Modesto, airport neighborhoods. I was very impressed with their message tonight. I felt that the message I received is make this housing plan approach a comprehensive housing plan approach that also addresses the existing affordable housing stock that we have, and how do we prevent folks from becoming homeless? How do we help protect renters, help them stay in their homes? And they had a specific ask, which was, can the City of Modesto form a local housing committee? I wanted to ask, I'm interested in that. I'm hoping the rest of the council is as well. To the extent possible, I wanted to ask the city attorney, if it's at all possible to if we do take any action as a council tonight that relates to that, in addition to the agenda item relatedly, could we, for example, I'll just throw out a specific example. Could we, for example, have a motion that moves approval of the staff recommendation and directs staff to bring back an agenda item regarding formation of a local housing committee?
All right, Councilmember, City Attorney Sanchez.
And Mayor, good question, Councilmember, and the answer is yes, because that's just simply providing direction to bring something back to the to council. So I don't see any issue with that.
So thank you. So in that regard, I want to go ahead and move approval of the staff recommendation, and additionally also direct staff to bring back an agenda item regarding the formation of a local housing committee.
All right, so does that need to be done in two separate motions, or is it one and the same?
We can do it, so Mayor, we could do it in two separate motions to be clean for as far as the minutes go. That way we adopt the resolution, if the council adopts the resolution approving going forward with the agreement, and then potentially having then the motion for direction separate. That's probably the easiest way to document for the minutes.
All right, so do I have a motion for the resolution approving the housing plan SB2 agreement to evaluate and expand housing opportunities with Opticos Design Incorporated of Berkeley, California for a total of $355,805, including a $10,000 contingency for a total amount not to exceed $365,805, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to take the necessary steps to execute the agreement. And we have a motion by Councilmember Madrigal. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wright. Can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmembers Ricky?
Aye.
Zalaki?
Aye.
Canoyer?
Aye.
Wright?
Aye.
Escutia Brayton?
Aye.
Madrigal?
Aye.
Mayor Swallen?
Aye. So that carries unanimously. Item number 22. Looking forward to that. Then we had a second item. Would you please repeat that, Councilmember Madrigal?
Yes, motion directing staff to bring back an agenda item at the next council meeting regarding the formation of a local housing committee.
All right, we have a comment from City Manager Lopez.
I would respectfully request that we get a little bit more time than the next council meeting to bring back a solid recommendation on what a housing committee might look like.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Roughly how much?
I'm not sure at this time. We are just hearing about this for the first time, so we'll have to take a look and I'll give you a recommendation back. But if the direction is to come back to council, we'll try to do so as expeditiously as possible.
Oh, okay. I'll leave it open, directing staff to bring back to, next, to a future council meeting, an agenda item for action regarding the formation of a local housing committee.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Madrigal, a second by Councilmember Ricky. Can we have the roll call?
Is there an opportunity for questions?
Sure. Yes, go ahead. So we'll do questions from the council, then open it up to the public, and then comments from the council.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sure.
What is the role of CDH and CDHCD? And what? And
CHCDC.
Thank you, Councilwoman Knoyer. And would that body be a body that would address these issues?
Right, I'm going to turn this over to City Manager Lopez.
Jalen.
All right, we have Jessica Hill to guide us on this.
Thank you, Mayor Zwallen. Yes, we do have a Citizens Housing and Community Development Committee, which reviews all affordable housing projects that the city funds through both our federal and state allocations. And this body could actually take on the housing committee that Madrigal did speak about.
All right, thank you very much.
So does that serve the purpose that Councilmember Madrigal was requesting?
So I think that that's what our research would reveal. I mean, we would have to see whether it fits in within that body itself or if a different body would need to be formed in order to better accomplish the goals that we're trying to seek here.
Excellent, thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Madrigal.
So I look forward to hearing back the research from the staff. My hope is that the staff will take a close look at the action plan that Faith in the Valley sent in an email to the council to see if whether or not the goals outlined, for example, in the action plan fully are going to be fully covered or can be fully incorporated into the CHDC. I hope I said it right. Committee, or whether we do need to form a new body that addresses local housing. For example, what I heard loud and clear was rental housing and the rights of tenants and how to protect them to keep them from becoming homeless, for example. So that's my hope. That's my vision. My intent behind this motion, and I look forward to seeing what the staff brings back.
All right. Any other questions from council members? Councilmember
Could I have get a clarification? What is exactly the motion? Because we're talking about several things.
About bringing a plan forward recommending a committee.
Okay. And,
housing.
And examining whether it's part of the CDC or whether it be not part of it. Or,
That's what I'm understanding, and
okay,
that's what we
I
would take
don't
a
understand. If it does or doesn't, or if we're going to examine, look to see if it does, which is fine. I don't care. I just want to make sure.
And I do have the plan that was submitted by Faith in the Valley. Unfortunately, it was in my junk email, so I just actually saw it today. So we'll take a look. It's been forwarded to staff. We'll take a look at that proposal and come back. Excuse me, come back with recommendations as the best approach.
All right, Councilmember Knoyer, questions?
Well, yes, I do that all the time. Forget. I'm just concerned that if we really need to have another committee looking into this, and I would highly recommend that we give the staff sufficient time to look into how this affects the CHCDC, or what the Faith in the Valley's plan is. And I think we should give our staff sufficient time for that. And I think, you know, we shouldn't expect that like in the next meeting or 2 meetings, because I think it's more complicated than it sounds. And to form another committee is really easy, but sometimes not needed.
All right, thank you. And questions, Councilmember Ricky?
I think the issue here, and I serve on that committee that we're talking about here, is that the existing committee kind of approves the projects that we're doing right now. The issue is that we're 20,000 units low on affordable housing right now, or just in rental units right now. And the charge of that committee is not to find new ways to create new housing. It's to approve projects, essentially. If we're going to go ahead and change that purpose to try to, you know, add fire to the actual issue that we've had, that's one thing. But I think that we miss out on the opportunity to get people that are passionate about this issue and look for solutions involved. So I think that's why, you know, the potential of having a new committee would be really, really good. This problem with rental properties has not been something that just appeared this week. We've been suffering from this for years. We have not effectively answered the problem, and it's getting worse every day. And now we're in a real housing emergency. We need to act.
Right, thank you. Councilmember Zalaki, questions?
Yeah, I'm probably the only one here that's built affordable housing. I've done a lot of them. And the basic tenets of making them affordable is price. It's difficult to get the price when the cost of building the product is more than what the income that it could produce, or that a person that could qualify that we're trying to target can afford. It takes various degrees of financing. It's very complicated. You can have up to 5, 6, 7 levels of grants on one project. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time. There are a lot of houses there is a demand for a lot of affordable housing. I got that. As I said, I've done that. I stopped doing it because it just became too burdensome to battle NIMBYs, to battle the government, to go after financing and have rules that were changed way back a number of years ago when we used to do tax credits, more so here. We have been doing the last number of projects. We have been able to get tax credits because of some rule changes, but we stopped doing it because it just got complicated. Way too much time. It was taking years. And now even regular housing, if you look at the last housing policy that we had, or excuse me, last housing development of significance, which would be, say, Tivoli, was approved by the voters in 2003 and is now 2021, and it's still not started. So put affordable housing complications into it, and you can look at a longer term. Example of that is our project over there off of Carver. It had to be split in half because they couldn't get all the financing they needed initially, and it's taken 2 rounds, and that has been going on for, I'm going to say, a decade. Does anybody know? Has it been a decade? From when I'm talking about the Carver Road, what's the name of it? Archway. Yeah, poor Archway. Beautiful project. It was, you know, in an area that was working. But they had to split it in half in order to get enough tax credits to at least get us started after working on it for probably 5 years. So all of that is the problem. And no committee is going to solve it. It's going to take money. And it's going to figure out where do you get the money to do it. You're going to charge the money of new homeowners that are building their own mid-range house in order to pay for somebody else's house. Is that fair? There's a lot of complications, and you need more than just one committee. You need to have the people that build it in the room if you want to get it built. You can have all the glorious plans you want, but unless you put the people that are building it to understand the complications, it's probably not going to happen. So I'm not trying to pour water on, or excuse me, put out the fire, the passion here. I understand the passion. I'm very passionate about housing. It's what I've done my entire life. And I can only tell you, this is not an easy problem. Otherwise, they'd be doing it all over. And some of the larger cities, this is what I'll get back to my comment about why we got out of the business, was the state allowed certain changes in the rulemaking that lumped all of us in the Central Valley into a large pool, and we had lesser dollars to share. And so it didn't make it work. While the Bay Area has massive amounts of money, lots of influence in the state of California, and they could get the rules adapted to their ways, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So that's, as I said, it's a problem of money. If you require it, if you make exclusionary or inclusive zoning requirements, all you're going to do is delay it longer. So make sure you have people there that actually do it. Currently, I'm not involved in it anymore, but I know what it was when I was doing it, and it's only more difficult now. So find those guys that are doing that, or gals, girls, men, women, I don't care. Those that are actually building it, and allow them to tell you what the problems are and how you can make it work.
All right, any other questions from council members? Council Member Knoyer.
I would like us to, if Jessica Hill is still there, to comment on that the CHCDC doesn't only do projects that we get, but how they go about trying to find a project. If she's still there, Jessica?
Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Knoyer. Yes, I'm still here. Yes, through the CH and CDC, and part of our outreach we do each year, and it's required by both federal and state sources, are to do continued community outreach with residents, affordable housing providers, and different community support groups in order to ensure we're meeting the needs of the city of Modesto. And so that is included as part of the work of the CH and CDC, which we can encompass updates to our housing plan and additional, and combine that with the community outreach of the housing plan as well.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further questions from council members, are there any comments?
I have my hand up.
All right, Council Member Knoyer, Council Member Madrigal.
Thank you. Just wanted to follow up and say I appreciate the work of the CHCDC, and I see that there's a real opportunity here. Just to echo what Councilmember Ricky said, is to engage a very organized, thoughtful, and very engaged community group, in addition to other community members, to help solve our local existing rental housing, the problems that we face, that our renters face when it comes to the existing housing supply, and then also with an eye towards the future, to what the future of our housing stock ought to be looking like, whether it's market rate or especially if it's affordable housing, and to make it happen in a way that does work, so that we can get towards groundbreaking type of activities that instead of once again living year after year with us not being able to meet our housing needs, and having this ever competitive housing market that many people in the community face. I speak as a renter. I cannot imagine what it would be like to try to find another place to live right now. But I hear this community group saying to us, do we have a plan for dealing with our existing rental housing? And whether it means protecting the renters that we have, ensuring that there's any rights that that we can provide for them, which ultimately will help prevent people from being evicted and becoming homeless, which only adds to the problem that we're already facing with homelessness. This is, I look forward to hearing back from staff what is the research that they were able to do. I'm hoping that they'll engage reach out to some of the staff. I'm sure the staff or the community organizers from Faith in the Valley, I'm sure they'll be happy to meet with staff to fully explain different aspects of their housing action plan that they envision for the city of Modesto to make it work for everyone that needs a home and is currently in a home in Modesto. So that's my hope and that's my vision. I think we're all trying to achieve the same thing, obviously, which is find a way to meet our housing goals. This is just one additional way for us to do it, and so that's my thinking with this committee that we're hoping to form and hear back from staff about.
All right. Any other questions from council members? All right, comments from the public. I see one hand raised. Janine?
Hello, thank you for allowing me another comment. I just wanted to make it clear in terms of some of what Faith in the Valley and renters are uplifting. For the formation of a local housing committee, we are hoping that this local housing committee will bring together elected representatives, tenants of private rental housing, manufactured housing, public housing, and other subsidized housing, people in the unhoused community, city planners, affordable housing developers, clergy leaders, and community benefit organizations like Faith in the Valley and others who have a long history of working alongside people in historically disenfranchised communities of color to advance racial justice, so that together we can develop 10-year action plans to tackle the housing crisis from a very comprehensive development, acquisition, preservation, protections for existing rental housing. And I think it's really important to emphasize that renters must have the loudest voice in the housing committee and in determining where and how they will be housed. So the committee would work together to develop immediate short-term plans to stabilize housing during the pandemic and in the years preceding the immediate health crisis, and would develop a comprehensive housing plan to ensure that in the years and decades ahead, that we're really striving toward creating a city where every single person has a safe, healthy, and deeply affordable home. And so there may be existing committees, but with all due respect, if we have the housing crisis that we're in, we need to examine the current committees that we have and see where we need to make the necessary reforms. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anyone else from the public regarding this topic? Mr. Drake?
Good evening again. It's quite honestly, it's not surprising to see Councilman Zalaki passionately defend the profit margins of developers here in Modesto.
Listen,
Pardon me?
I said, no, I wasn't.
Oh, no. Okay, you put it your way, I'll put it mine, okay? The point is, and you should know after the debacle of the Village One, where we went in at one point, went to another. But let's talk about Woodglen. I believe, now I'm having to work off of memory here, about 8 years ago, you pushed it through LAFCO. Jim DiMartini even got up and said, they divided it up and they made a walled, it's going to be a walled enclosure, a walled subdivision, but 2 separate walls inside it. One side they were building the McMansions, about 4.5 houses per acre, which is below the standard. The other side, well, they decided they're going to put apartment buildings in. Why? So they could turn around and say, well, we're amortizing. We're building these, so this should affect that. No. What are we building just north of the Vintage Square or the Vintage Mall? What are we building? $450,000, $500,000 houses. Now that's where the money is. Nobody's going to deny that. The more amenities you want to put into a house, the happier the developer is. There's no end to how much money they can make. It's like buying a car. The more accessories you buy, the more the dealership makes. And that's what it's all about. Now, you put through tonight, I believe, establishing the taxing base so they can go ahead and start building that. Now, they waited 8 years. Again, I'm having to work off my memory here. They waited all that time. Why do we always turn around and go, it can't be done? Where is well, let's figure out a way. You know, we have a lot of land, but developers, they don't want to give it up. Horsheim, that's not the name of it. Holmes has a development just on the north side of Modesto, not too far from where I live. They've had it already approved for, that might be another one of those that is about 8 years old. But they didn't build because there wasn't a big enough profit margin. They got the old smaller fees blocked in, but we turned around and let it go. See, we've always been catering to developers in this town, whatever the heck they want. That's the concern about the general plan. You know, you got the Grovers across up there on the north side, and they just want to build houses. Lyons, he doesn't know what he wants to build. Strip malls are great, but he'll take homes too, over some of the nicest property in the state. We need, at some point in time, to decide we'll follow through and set a goal. But we don't do that. Because all of a sudden developers and the Chamber of Commerce go, you know, there's better ways to do this. Let's not make it just because it's difficult doesn't mean it can't get done. Horsheim Homes, I'm just having trouble coming up with that name. We have the property. We have the ability to do what we want, but we can't continue to build $500,000 homes and $600,000 homes. It can't be done. Not if we're going to pay attention to the majority of the people in Modesto. But that's not what we're concerned about. I know I've exhausted my time. I thank you very much. Let's not pay a whole lot of attention to a developer. I mean, to me, the only worse is I spit more when I say the term lawyer, I'll concede. But when it comes to Modesto, it's bait and switch forever. Thank you very much.
All right. Any other comments from the public? Yes, please.
I've been so great at introducing myself, Glenn Hensley. Thank you for your time. Hensley did build up a lot of California.
Can you talk closer? I can't hear you.
Hensley did build up a lot of California. We built a lot of low-income, very low-income housing. It can be done. That lovely DUNS number, it really helps, you know. You get a little out of that grant. You got that nonprofit. It really helps the people. If we can get something that, like my whole life growing up, houses were $89,000, $120,000 to buy. Now you're looking at, I can't afford that. Rent was what? I'm taking a loss every month on a rental house of $100. So someone who can't afford it, they're on low income, Social Security, now they can. There's always an opportunity to make things work. If we don't use conglomerate construction companies, we use small business, local business, we're feeding the whole Modesto machine. We're only helping. Can't hurt, right? And with the cost of lumber, I see what you're saying. It's intense, man. So if we work together, we can do it. We need the coalition to be of unhoused, housed, poor, rich, everybody. Because there is a lot of space in Modesto. We are at Ag Town. If we continue to build out instead of up, we're going to lose. All the fruit, all the food. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and no for-profit housing. That's hard, man.
Any other members of the public on this topic? All right, so we're going to go back to the council for comments. And I would like repeated one more time exactly what we are commenting on. Councilmember Madrigal, can you very shortly, succinctly say what it is exactly that you are putting forward here?
I recall I made a motion to direct staff to bring back to a future agenda an item for discussion and action to form a local housing committee. And so that's the short version of the motion. Obviously with the understanding of taking into account the council discussion and questions that we've had.
All right. Any comments from council members regarding this that have not been already stated? All right, I have one comment. All right, Councilmember Zalaki.
In understanding what that committee is going to look like, could we at least know what that's going to be after staff has done their portion?
Right.
Okay, all right.
Sure. I'm going to make my comment. I'm concerned about voting for something that we have really not had any time to fully discuss and to form another committee, because there are so many in our community already that I feel like this is really important for our city, but I'm concerned about that at this point. One public speaker said, I believe it was our professor from Fresno State, that we need to examine the committees that already exist. And I agree with that. So that's my comment. Any other comments from council members?
I agree with you, Mayor.
All right, we have a motion from Council Member Madrigal and a second from Council Member Ricky. May we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Council members Ricky,
Aye.
Zalaki,
No.
Canoyer,
No.
Wright,
No.
Eskisha Brayton,
No.
Madrigal,
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
No. So that fails 5-2, and we look forward for more discussion in the process of the agenda item that we passed, item number 22. I know that everyone has been here for a very long time, but we've already had one council member that needed to take a break. So I want to take a 3-minute break and come back at 5 minutes, excuse me. Been request for 5 minutes, so we'll come back at 7:57.
Yes.
All right, we will begin again with item number 23, to consider approving an agreement to provide fire protection services between the City of Modesto and the City of Ceres for a 5-year term with a 2-year extension option. Approving the side letter to the Modesto City Firefighters Association Memorandum of Understanding as it relates to the agreement to provide fire protection services between the City of Modesto and the City of Ceres, amending the position allocation for fiscal year 2021-22 as adopted in the operating budget, approving an application to the Stanislaus Local Agency Formation Commission to confirm the City of Modesto's fire service contract with the City of Ceres, and amending the fiscal year 2021-22 operating budget by $5,673 in revenues and $5,604,740 in expenses. And I will turn the time over to Chief Ernst.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Alan Ernst, Fire Chief. I'm proud to be here. This is something we've been working on for several years, specifically with City Series for the last 2 years. And it continues the regionalization effort that we've made here in the recent past. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. A little bit of who we are, just for everybody's knowledge. We've been proudly serving our communities as the Modesto Fire Department for 140 years. We're what we call an all-risk fire department. That means we do more than just fight fires. We provide advanced life support through paramedics on our engine companies, tech rescue, hazardous materials incidents, special operations like water rescue, and we partner with our law enforcement partners. A little bit about who we serve. Again, we've been working on regionalization for quite some time, and we have a proud history of those partnerships. One with the City Series through a JPA agreement for the fire services for the Industrial Fire Protection District. We've also entered into a resource sharing agreement with Ceres and Stanislaus Consolidated, Ceres, Turlock, and the City of Modesto, obviously, to provide the closest resource available for emergency incidents. And then 2 years ago, we started the contract of service agreements with the City of Oakdale and Oakdale Fire Protection District, and we're proud to serve over 250,000 citizens across 375 square miles. This is just a quick photo that kind of depicts the different areas that we cover. We're becoming a very complex organization that we're very proud to serve the urban communities of Modesto and the rural communities of Knights Ferry and everything in between. So why regionalization? First and foremost, and this is something I really stand on, is to provide a safer environment for our communities and our firefighters that protect them. It adds for a depth of resources, coverage, ability for when we have large-scale incidents, effective force, that's getting the amount of firefighters quickly on scene to mitigate incidents, and response times. We will be able to participate in a well-staffed, highly trained fire system for all our communities. I truly believe we're stronger together than we are apart, and that partnership has been proven through the City of Modesto, the City of Oakdale, and the Oakdale Fire Protection District, and hopefully now the City Series. We're very respectful of culture, community, and identity. It's very important to all the communities that we serve, and we are very proud that we've been able to highlight that. So some system benefits of regionalization. Again, it adds a depth of resources for all agencies. By combining all our resources, we could better serve the communities that we protect. It increased staffing for agencies. By finding fiscal efficiencies, we're able to reinvest those efficiencies back into the system and provide increased staffing level. In Ceres, we're going to add a fourth person to their ladder truck on each day, and we're also going to add a deputy or a division chief and some fire inspector to help with the management of fire prevention. This contract will also add an additional shift battalion chief for resource management. So we'll have a total of 3 on-duty battalion chiefs every day, and that helps us with our span of control. Administrative support. Again, adding a division chief, this contract will pay for that. That will help us manage all these contracts and the day-to-day operations of the fire department. And the fiscal efficiencies that I talked about are real. We find those through not having duplicative services. So one for fire chief, we don't need to have 4 fire chiefs in this arrangement. We can have 1. There's savings there, administration, training, and then buying in bulk. We see savings there. And we see savings in fleet, IT, and other areas. So benefits specifically for Modesto, again, number 1 is a safer community and environment for our firefighters. Those depth of resources I've spoke about. The operational efficiencies by being all one organization. We have common policies, training, and communication. The administrative support, again, one administration serving the agencies and the cities. This will add an additional division chief to our department. The fiscal efficiencies that I spoke of, we shared the cost of the administration, the supplies and services, IT, fleet, etc. And then fire prevention is very important. This will add to our current staffing of our fire prevention. We'll be able to better serve both the City of Modesto, City Series, and the Oakdales. So this is just a quick comparison between where we stand today on the left and where we would be with the approval of this contract. Really, you see an increase to 186 sworn allocations, 15 allocated civilian administrative staff, fully staffed administration includes operations division, support division, training, and fire prevention, 16 staff fire stations, and 18 staff companies, and a proud resource sharing partner. So the highlights of the contract, it's a 5-year agreement with an option for a 2-year extension. This is important because it provides stability not only for both cities involved, but also the employees that are affected by the agreement. All existing series employees will become new City of Modesto employees. The facilities and apparatus remain under series ownership. Fleet, human resources, and IT services will be provided by the City of Modesto. And the Oakdale contracts were used as a template. We spent a lot of time developing those contracts, and with the anticipation of growing, and so they became the template for this particular contract as well. So the fiscal impact, again, all the expenses that the City of Modesto will incur in this contract are going to be covered by the City of Series. That includes the salaries of those and the pension liability, wages, benefits, supplies, etc., of the employees that come over. It will also add $50,000 a year to assist in our administrative costs. And again, it covers the full expense of a new division chief and a fire inspector for the organization. So kind of in closing, regionalization has proven to be very successful with our partners in Oakdale. We're currently negotiating 5-year extensions with both the City of Oakdale and the Oakdale Fire Protection District. And very hopeful to have that be brought forward here soon. We've built strong relationships in the community that we're very proud of. And this model is something that can continue to expand as time goes on. So the mayor did a really good job reading the staff recommendations, so I won't repeat it. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. Questions from council members? Council Member Wright.
Thank you, Chief, for your presentation. So the City of Series will reimburse us for our costs. So if we find that our costs are going up after the first year, do we have the ability to pass those on to the city?
So it's a good question. The costs were anticipated for 5 years, and as a contract allows, we built in the inflators that we normally see, the historical inflators, so that's covered. So the city is protected well through the contract, and there are clauses in the contract for either city or either party if there becomes circumstances that dictate it, that we can get together and have conversations about the contract. But it's a set price for 5 years, and we anticipated all the natural inflators that we've seen.
Thank you.
Questions? Councilmember Canoyer?
Yes, I'm just curious, now there's going to be one chief?
Correct.
And so are there 2 chiefs right now?
No. So
Okay,
currently
then-
right now I'm assisting Series as their acting fire chief. So there will be, there's no fire chief that won't have a job out of
Okay, and
this.
that's the same thing that happened in Oakdale?
Correct.
Okay, I just want people to understand that we're not putting somebody out of business,
Yeah.
not, losing a job. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Questions? I don't see any other from council members. All right, any comments from the public regarding this item? I don't see any online or in person. Any comments from council members?
Motion to approve?
All right, I want to make a comment.
I'm sorry.
And
Okay, Councilmember Zalaki, you go ahead.
thank you, Mayor. I could have waited. That's not a problem, but thank you. I just comment. Thank you, Chief, because I know how hard you've worked on this and you've been working on it, and also to the city of Ceres. I'm just seeing wonderful things change in our community, and the ability to have a little better fire coverage, I believe. As you said, it's coordinated. We now have coverage that we can utilizing the different departments, and the costs remaining much the same. It goes towards, I'm gonna give it to you. I know that also all the firemen that in both departments are engaged in this process, but it's a time and place where some pretty significant things. I think of MRFA and the failures of MRFA, and this is so much better than MRFA. So it's been obviously thought out well and has been received well, and you must be listening well also, as well as all of those that are helping, the city managers that are involved in this. And so congratulations. Those are my comments.
All right, thank you. My comment, and then City Manager Lopez would like to make a comment too, but I noticed in the notes it said that, well, first of all, I wanted to recognize the presence of Mayor Javier Lopez from the City of Ceres, and I really appreciate you being here this evening and staying for this item and for representing your city well. I noticed that it says all existing Ceres employees will become new City of Modesto employees, and I want to say welcome. I've spent my career as an emergency room nurse at Doctors Medical Center, and we always operated as a community with all firefighters, all law enforcement working together to benefit our community members. So to me, this is not a foreign concept at all. It's the way we should be in a city. I also noted that in the notes it said respect of culture, community, and identity, and I know that Ceres has its own unique identity, as does Oakdale. And I've spent a lot of time in Ceres, mostly for athletic events, and really enjoyed being there. I know that you're close by. It's you know, a lot of people think that we're one city. We aren't. There's different cultures, and I have followed Ceres and the rich culture and parks and the activities and things that you have going on there. And I think that's really important, to respect that culture, community, and identity. And in this role even more so, I know Oakdale definitely has their identity, and I've spent a lot of time there. I love going to Oakdale and have my favorite places there, and also in Ceres. So I think that I look forward to this with promise, and appreciate all the partners that have made it happen. And now City Manager Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to take a second to acknowledge our Fire Chief, Alan Ernst. You know, regionalization is the future of our community. We already had to draw boundaries. We knew we had to do something different, and it was really Chief's vision and tenacity to really make that a reality for this to really come true. And so he really deserves a tremendous amount of credit for all the hard work and late nights that I know he had to work to make both Oakdale and Ceres comfortable in making sure that this partnership was going to work going forward. So just wanted to take a second to acknowledge our outstanding fire chief for another great job well done. Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you. And I believe that we have a motion for this. There are several resolutions. I will read them.
You've read them all.
All right. There's 5 different resolutions, but we can vote on them all at once. And we have a motion from Council Member Wright Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Ricky. Can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Council members Ricky.
Aye.
Zalaki.
Aye.
Canoyer.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Eskisha Brayton.
Aye.
Madrigal.
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
Aye, so it carries unanimously. Thank you very much for your efforts. We will go on to, excuse me, item number 24. To consider approving the award of bid for tree removal services to Grover Landscape Services Incorporated for a total amount not to exceed $1,286,071 over a one-year period with a one-year extension option, and approving 5 limited-term employee positions for the Forestry Division to assist with reforestation for an annual estimated cost of $448,974 and $192,020 for materials for a total annual cost of $640,994. A total amount not to exceed $1,281,988 over 2 years, for a total amount of $2,568,059 over 2 years. Approving an amendment to the position allocation for fiscal year 2021-22 as adopted in the operating budget, and amending the fiscal year 2021-22 operating budget to establish transfers into Fund 4892, Green Waste Fund, and a transfer out from Fund 0100 General Fund in the amount of $1,850,000, and to increase the Forestry Division Cost Center 56040 expenditure budget by $810,149 to account for the Grover contract, limited term employee positions and materials. And Mr. Sandu.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Bill Sandu, Public Works Director. Item before you today is a forestry work plan. And before we begin, I would like to thank all of you for making this additional funding available, one-time funding available for us to address some of these urgent issues related with the trees. And with that, so a little bit background on forestry. Forestry gets about 8,000 to 10,000 service calls every year. And our peak time for these calls or limb failures is summer and first quarter of every year, like January, February, March. So June through September and then January through March. That's when we get the majority of calls. During summer, trees are heavy. When the trees are stressed, they drop a lot of limbs, or when the roots are gone. And during the winter months, when there's a lot of wind and storm, that's when we get a lot of calls. There is some statistics. For 2019, during June through September, we got close to 4,600 calls, 4,557. I just want to give you a couple of recent examples. Last weekend, we got 49 calls just for tree failures, limb failures. Out of those 49 calls, 11 were some sort of property damage. And 4th of July weekend, we got 30 calls over 3-day weekend, and the 5 of them were some sort of property damage. So that shows the trends. This is either the summer months or the winter months. We get a lot of these. So that's why our plan we formed here, I'm going to present to you today, is a 2-phase plan. We went through a process to expedite the work so that we can avoid or minimize some of these tree failures and tree damage. And here's some of the budget. The budgeted amount for forestry for fiscal year 2021 is $4.5 million and 29 full-time employees. And you can see the trees and limbs broken, about 1,700 to 1,800 limbs broken. And also a lot of calls we get for trees. Average 30 to 35 calls or inspections we perform on trees during work days. And the rest of the statistics is there. So one of the reason our trees are weak or stressed or we get a lot of limb drops is a pruning cycle. Trees need to be pruned 5 to 7 years. We prune 7 to 9 years. 9 to 11 years. So you can see the trend is going in the right direction. We've been focusing a lot of our effort towards pruning. You can see that from the chart there from 2017 to 2020, the pruning numbers, we've been focusing a lot on preventive maintenance. When you focus on preventive maintenance, that means your service calls hopefully at some point start going down. And a little bit current situation with the trees. We have about 105,000 trees, city trees citywide, and 81,000 of those trees are the street trees, and about 24,000 trees are facilities and or parks. And pruning cycle, we talked a little bit. Current is 9 to 11 years. The preferred or the industry standard is somewhere between 5 to 7 years. So we've been focusing on the pruning and also a lot of dealing with a lot of storms and things like that. So that created a backlog. So currently we are looking at about 2,000 stump backlog, which is a quality of life issue. And on our list, in our database, there are close to 1,100 trees that need to be removed. That's when already approved by the staff because of some of these reasons I mentioned for removal. And then the mistletoe, about I would say about 30 to 40% of our trees have the mistletoe. And this map represents what we have. This map was, I think, prepared in March, and since then we added another 150 trees to the removal list. And District 3 is most impacted, which is more kind of college area neighborhood. That's where a lot of these trees are. Then the second most affected district is District 4. Mainly around Scenic and north part of Scenic. And proposed work plan. So as I mentioned, we wanted to expedite some of this work. So two phases of the work plans are remove 957 diseased, dead, or diseased and or dead trees that are causing health and safety risk. That's already been on the list. And second part of the work plan is more kind of quality of life and reforestation. First was more kind of removing tree was more health and safety issue. The second one, reforestation, quality of life. So basically 2,000 stump removal, 2,000 tree planting, and 2,000 mistletoe abatement is part of this plan. So funding and resources. So as I mentioned in the beginning, so this was one-time funding that became available. So council approved this funding by resolution 2021-194 on May 25th, 2001. So council approved $1.85 million as part of their resolution. And then there will be, to implement this work plan completely, another $718,000 will be required in next fiscal year 22-23 to fully implement this work plan. And resources, so as I mentioned, there's health and safety risk. That's why we wanted to go with the consultant. We did our analysis, what will be most expedient to remove the trees, what will be most cost-effective way to remove the trees and do rest of the work. So resources are a combination resources, as you will see in some of these slides. And the first part of it is the contract work that we for removal of trees. And the second part will be in-house work, which will be requesting 2-year limited term positions. So contractor resources, as we mentioned earlier, that the council approved the funding on one-time funding actually on May 25th. And June 11th, we had a scope ready, and then we went out to request for quotation, which was informal request for quotation, and June 14th, these quotes were due. So this is very, very expedited process for a reason, to minimize any further damage by the trees or the failure of the trees. And also, there are 957 trees that need to be removed as part of this contract, and 600 of those trees need to be removed by end of December, which is this year. So this is very resource. This work will require quite a bit of resources. So not all the landscape companies could compete for this kind of work because the resources required. Then 600 trees need to be removed by December, then 357 trees are removed in next month after the contract. So the whole contract, the length of the contract is about 1 year, 12 months. So we received 3 quotes. 3 quotes we received, and the Grover landscaping was the lowest. So Grover Landscaping is Modesto was the lowest, around $1.1 million, and the second lowest was West Coast Harvest. They're out of Anaheim. They were around $1.4 million, and then the third one was Rumble Inc. from Modesto. They were around $1.7 million. So item today's contract amount, the Grover's bid amount was $1.1 million, and contingencies were adding about $116,000, $916 for any unanticipated work. If there is a huge storm again, additional trees need to be removed. That's why we adding that funding to it. So one thing I want to touch upon is, before I move on to next phase of the plan, that the question was, how will the priorities be set? The priorities will, removal priorities will set about, depending upon a criteria that we have. Health and safety is number 1. So trees with the structural issues that are either split or have anchorage issues will be first one to be removed, health and safety. And the second part will be, we have a database that has about close to 1,100 trees on the list. And the staff will work with the contractor, if the item is approved today, to come up with the priorities. So hopefully within the next 30 days, we plan to make that list available on our website. So that's our goal. But that will take us to work with the contractor to finalize the list and the priorities, and we'll keep updating as the time goes. So the second part of the work plan is in-house work. So that involves removing 2,000 stumps and mistletoe abatement for 2,000 trees and tree planting. And for the first year, we expect it will take us, if the resources are approved, for 2 to 3 months to go through a recruitment process and get the staff on board. So we're projecting somewhere around 800 of each done. And then next year we can do 1,200 or more. Even first year, if we're able to hire the staff quickly, we can do additional. So what are the resources being requested? 2-year limited term positions, 3 maintenance workers, and 2 tree trimmers. So total 5 limited term, 2-year limited term positions being requested. And here is the in-house cost analysis. We did the complete analysis. So the top part is the salaries part. That will be about $448,974 a year expense. And then materials, the trees, to purchase the trees, about $75 a tree. We're expecting for 2,000 trees, 2 years, $150,000. The other materials and supplies needed to plant the tree for mistletoe abatement, about $234,000 in 2 years, and that kind of comes to about $192,000 of material and supplies and trees a year. So before I go to recommendation, I just wanted to share this slide with you. These are the formal quotes that we received. We went through really detailed quote process and really went through our list, how many trees we have for 6 inch or under, 7 to 12 inches, 12 to 24 inches, so that we can get a good prices, and that way we were able to really get good prices. As I mentioned earlier, Grover Landscape Services Inc. Modesto was the lowest. We got the lowest cost from them. That's about $1.1 million. And the second lowest was West Coast Arborist Inc. Anaheim. They're from Anaheim, and they're about $1.4 million. And the third lowest quote, third quote was Rumble Tree Inc. From Modesto. They're $1.6 million approximately. And then the fourth company we sent this information to, they did not respond. They cited kind of resource constraints to execute the work. So with that, we have 4 resolutions before you today. The first one is award a contract to Grover Landscape Inc. of Modesto. The second one is approve 5 limited term employee positions. And the third resolution is position allocation amendment. And the fourth one is, amending the budget 21-22 budget year. So before I go to questions, I just want to touch bases on why we went through this informal process, informal quote process rather than full bid process, because of the nature of the circumstances we have, the summer and the winter. We wanted to make sure we tried to minimize any damage, because now the funding is available. This is one-time funding that first time became available. And this quote process, we are trying to finish all this process within 4 to 6 weeks. If we went through a traditional full bid process, we're looking at 4 to 6 months, versus we're trying to finish in 4 to 6 weeks. So that's one of the reasons we went through informal process. And that MMC, Modesto Municipal Code, does allow that process also. So again, we're trying to save time here, trying to expedite this work. That's urgent work. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, first question is from Councilmember Zalaki.
Thank you, Mayor. Bill, thank you for the presentation and information. It's very helpful in understanding how we came to this point. And I remember you coming and discussing this with me a while back of the plan that you ran through the data and determined the number of trees and just what we were doing. I can say this as a council member, this is probably, if not the top call that I receive from so many homeowners and renters and such. And that's tree limbs, full trees, just a lot of stuff. And the trees have been stressed in Modesto for a long time. I mean, over a decade, and during that time, much more, closer to 2 decades, if you really look at it. But we had some years in between when we received significant amounts of water. But then we had 3 years of drought, 4 years of drought. The trees show it, and and at the same time, the budget has always been challenged in the city of Modesto, and so one of the challenges previous city councils had to determine was how we're going to balance the budget, and often they took it from Forestry, and it's evident. At least that's what I think. But I'm looking at a couple of things. I'm going to ask the question for the sake of those that are watching online. So 5 years ago, why didn't we go attack the trees then? We didn't have the money.
So there
Is that right? Okay, all right, all right, so follow me through, because that's the reason we didn't have the money. We balanced our budget, and the budgets also, at times, probably were constrained just by changes in the economy. Remember, the Amazon effect has significant affected all cities. And so 5 years ago, 4 years ago, same answer. 3 years ago, what changed that allowed us to get this money?
So council member, one of the change that happened is the ARPA funding became available. That
Yeah,
is
the federal
stimulus
dollars.
funding.
One
And
time.
that funding
Yeah, you said that.
substituted some general fund money. So general fund, that was made available for forestry purposes.
So my whole point is, we couldn't do this earlier because we didn't have the money, but we've received one-time funding, and we're prioritizing those dollars, and we voted on as a council to make it a priority to go after trees, because it's a significant issue. And the numbers that you were just talking about of tree branches and trees that have fallen the last just few weeks is significant. I mean, it's the trees seriously need attention. So this emergency that we are dealing with is what you're doing is trying to fix a problem. Others may disagree and bloviate about whether we should be doing it the way we're doing this. And I would say, no, this is an emergency. And before we have serious injuries and other things, we need to spend the time getting ahead of it. And hopefully in the future, we can build a better economic model for our city to generate those dollars to take care of some of these life-changing issues that address us. So Grover is a pretty substantial company. They have a number of employees. They'll be involved in this. I can only say that when I look at some of the things they have been able to do in our city, they have done a pretty decent job. I'm glad they came in at the low bid against the other two. The time frame is immediate. Which is, as I said, this is a huge item for us that are on the council, hearing it and getting after these. The tree stumps, what's the backlog on the tree stumps? I know you said it, but I don't recall.
So currently we have over 1,000 tree stumps, and when another 1,000 trees, Grover removes another 1,000 trees, so that makes it 2,000.
Yeah, okay, so a lot. We have a lot to get after. Okay. Well, I'm glad to see it here, and anxious to see us clean up our trees and maybe get our urban forestry looking in better shape, especially the mistletoe. Oh my goodness. I have areas in my district in the wintertime, you can't tell it's wintertime because the trees are still in full green and it's all mistletoe. And so it'll be good to get those trimmed back also. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Bill. And Bill, I agree with you on everything you said there. But one of my concerns would be replanting of new trees. So are we looking at planting trees that have less issues with mistletoe? And then also, how are we going to plant them so that they don't break up these sidewalks down the road 5, 10, 15 years from now? Have we looked at that?
That's a great question, Councilmember Wright. And yes, that's what we've been looking at. We've been looking at the tree species, number one, that are drought tolerant also, because one of our trees' biggest challenge is wind drought, because when there's no deep water, their roots are going to surface water. That's basically what they're doing. And we've been looking into different species that are drought tolerant and disease tolerant also. Some of the mistletoes, when our biggest issue, that is correct. We've been looking into different species of trees.
And how about the way of planting them so that the roots don't cause havoc to our sidewalks?
Absolutely. That'd be another criteria that we'll be considering.
Okay. But we don't have anything set aside yet on how we're going to be planting them, or in containers underneath the ground to help the roots go down. Is there anything laid out for that yet? Or?
Not yet, because the first things we can tackle first is tree removal, stump removal, and we will start planting trees quickly also, because I promised Councilmember Ricky that one of his constituents been calling and we'll plant something in August. So we'll come up with that also. We've been focusing on removal and the stump for now.
Yeah, I would really recommend that you really take a look how other cities that do plant trees that don't have problems with their sidewalks, what they're doing in order to keep the roots below surface instead of coming up and cracking the sidewalks. That saves us money in the long run with trip and falls because of sidewalk issues, and also saves the city from having to go out and replace sidewalks and stuff. So that'd be great to look at. Thank you.
And I just want to reiterate, this is a tremendous problem in our community. And this is making just a small dent in a very large problem that we have. We do have a grant out that we're hopeful to receive that's going to go through our tree inventory and look at our conditions in our community that are going to help feed our decisions into the future. And so this is just like a shot of infusion of catching up on the backlog that we have that will then free up our staff to help catch up on maintenance and do things. So this is a short-term strategy with a vision of a long-term goal of what we're going to do with the trees in the future. And a lot of the points that you make are absolutely spot on that we're taking a look at. When these things were planted, 70, 80 years ago, no one knew that they were going to come up and the roots were going to start cracking our sidewalks. You look around town, there's lifted sidewalks everywhere, which cause trips and falls, and trees only have certain lifespans. And so how do we make sure that we get on a cycle of taking trees down and replanting so that we have a staggered approach, as opposed to certain areas? Let's just take the college area where hundreds of thousands of trees were planted at basically one time, and now all these trees are basically end of life that we're now having to take out and replant. That's affecting that canopy. So again, this is an item that we're bringing forward just to kind of catch us up, and I don't even think that that's going to be sufficient. And you may be looking at additional requests next year with additional ARPA funding so that we can continue this process. Hopefully we get that grant where we can look at our overall tree maintenance and really come up with a long-term solution.
Right, thank you. Questions, Councilmember Ricky?
Yeah, two quick questions for you. Number one, where's Grover based?
They're based off of Modesto.
I like to hear that a lot. I think that's the only question I got. Thanks, man. Oh, actually, no, I remember now. Recently, there was in a park. It might have been today. A tree branch fell on some people in a dog park. Are we going to kind of look at the park trees as part of this too?
We also work on park trees also, and the parks is doing two things. They're also going, they have bid out, they're also going for a contract also. But any tree that needs to be removed, no matter if it's park or street, if it's that urgency, it will be removed as part of this contract.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from council members? Seeing none. Comments from the public, and I have a blue card from Calvin Hopt. Welcome, and thank you for waiting.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Cal Hopt. I'm a 26-year resident of Modesto. I'm also the area manager for West Coast Arborists. And while the company is based out of Anaheim, we are local. I live here. We service Ceres, Turlock, Tracy, Stockton, Lodi, and many other local communities. Just yesterday, we noticed that an award of contract for tree removal services was being recommended at this evening's City Council meeting. Our firm had also submitted an informal quote for this project on June 14th. After reviewing the City's Council agenda packet, we realized that our bid proposal amount of $1,407,900 was second to Grover Landscape with a bid of $1,169,155. Shortly after this bid opening, the City of Modesto solicited another bid for on-call vegetation management services with a bid due date of June 29th. This project, which is being facilitated by the City Parks, Recreations, and Neighborhood Department, calls for furnishing an on-call vegetation management service at various locations throughout the city on an as-needed basis throughout the year. The work includes tree removal, stump removal, tree trimming, material handling, brush and field management, arborist evaluations, and additional services. The preliminary bid results show that our firm, being the apparent low bidder, even over Grover, which also submitted a proposal. More importantly, the unit rates for the tree removal services under the bid for the on-call vegetation management services are lower than the rates submitted by Grover in the informal quote for tree removal services. When we compare just the tree removal rates from both companies, we find that by utilizing our rates for tree removal services under the bid for on-call vegetation management, we will save the city taxpayers over $145,000 in the first year alone. We are mindful that the city has yet to officially award this project to our firm. Due to the negative fiscal impact created by the COVID-19 pandemic, we are also cognizant of cities facing reduced revenue streams that will be affected by city services, particularly in the contract year 21-22 and perhaps beyond. By offering the rates from the on-call vegetation management services bid and holding them firm for 2 years, we can help ease the city's financial strain while guaranteeing the community with quality, consistent workmanship, and customer service. Based on these findings, we respectfully request that the city reconsider the award of the contract to Grover Landscape for tree removal services and either assign the tree removals to our firm under the on-call vegetation management bid or re-advertise the bid for tree removal services. I've been in the tree business for over 45 years and have bid literally hundreds of contracts. I have never seen a contract of this size, over $1 million, go out on a Friday and be due Monday. You don't need to be an arborist to see that the city's urban forest is in need of help. I'm not here to assign blame, only to offer a practical, cost-effective solution. As I said, I'm a longtime Modesto resident. We have several employees that live in town. We are a proud member of LIUNA, the Northern California Laborers Union, that supplies good wages as well as full health care, not only for our employees, but their families as well. WCA specializes in municipal tree care only. We do not do private work or commercial work. I'd just like to thank you all for listening. I know you have this letter in front of you already, but I wanted to get it out so that the public could see it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, any members of the public? All right, yes, sir? Good evening.
Mayor and council members, I'm Mark Grover, Grover Landscape Services, and I'm a little bit disappointed in the last speak. I've lived in Modesto all my life. I was born here. Both of my parents were born here. The manager of our tree service division, Matt Long, who bid this job, is on vacation today, and so that's why I'm here to speak to you. But we are concerned about the city. We live here. I grew up on Rumble Road. It's in the city, and the home place where I grew up is where Matt and his wife and his family live today. And I think that if a job goes out to bid and we give our best price, and as you saw when those bids were recorded, we're $300,000 lower than the next highest bid. I think the only fair thing is to award that to the low bidder as long as we are a responsible bidder. I think we met all the requirements to that. And so now to come and say that that is to be superseded by some other bid, it distresses me very much. I would hope that you would go ahead and award this to us. We're in difficult times. We had a management meeting this morning with all of our managers, and as we do on a regular basis, And in every department in our company, we're having trouble getting people. And it just seems we get applicants and then they don't show up. And so we would hire more people tomorrow if we could get them. But because we knew we had this contract, we thought we were going to be awarded to us. And we knew that it was an urgent thing to try to get a certain number of trees done by the end of this year. We've been trying to clear our schedule so that we can abide by the terms of the contract. And that means we have to shuffle other things and work it around. So we have been working so that we could hit the ground running if you award this bid to us. And I thank you for listening, and thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. All right. Mr. Drake.
Good evening again. You know, it's always interesting, in the last one, any time that the council or the Chamber of Commerce is threatened by not being able to control a committee, they vote against it, but that's beside the point. I'm not sure which one of his Councilman Zalaki was suggesting would be up here bloviating. We can take a guess because he has a history of attacking citizens that come to this podium. I can cite you the date and verse if you like. You were admonished the last time, but it's a bigger concern. You know, in the agenda today, it doesn't mention exigent circumstances. Doesn't mention that it does mention it's a 3-day bid, like he said. I mean, I was shocked when I saw it. All I've heard is this drama. Oh, we've got trees falling. We've got mistletoe. I got to tell you, I got mistletoe on my own tree. I'm on my second city tree, and it's big. But that's not what we're talking about mostly here today. We're talking about chopping down trees. And we want to make a big deal out of it, but what did we do? We spent 3 days on a bid, and what did we do? We didn't send it out to everybody. We cherry-picked 4 different companies. One of them, and I forget which one right now, made a bid, but they don't have a Modesto license, and it says in the bid you got to have a Modesto license in order to be considered. Well, if you send it to a company that doesn't have a Modesto business license, what does that suggest to you? It suggests to me that somebody's getting cherry-picked. Somebody's getting out there and they're making a special arrangement with the people. Somebody has been designated, if you will. Now, a $1.2 million contract with 3 days, over a weekend to bid? You know, I made a public record request asking how many times we've done this exigent circumstances. This year alone, and they came back with 4. But if I ask it again, this one won't show up because it's not in the agenda. It doesn't say that. Because you have a history of going around and violating the charter. You found a loophole, you run a truck through it. All of a sudden, it's an emergency. Now, you couldn't take, it's been over a month, or been a month since they put it out to bid. You couldn't take a week. You couldn't open it up to everybody that had a business here in Modesto? No. And let's talk about the Grovers, he says so good. You know, this company isn't heard. They've got the city park contract. They low bid it. City employees tried to bid against it, but they couldn't. The city said, the council at the time said, oh, don't worry about it. We'll give them a year. We'll see how it goes. And then what did they do? They immediately sold off all the equipment to Grover. And part of that contract said that they were supposed to do the ball diamonds. That was part of the contract. They didn't do the ball diamonds. City workers that got dirt kicked on them, they did the ball diamonds while Grover got the big contract. And what are we looking at again today? Grover getting preferential treatment, a cherry-picked group, a Stockton company, people that weren't going to be able to make a decent bid, and you're going to tell us you're saving the world by getting in such a big hurry? Please. Now, I know, you know, the fat cats in Modesto sit over there at the chamber and they separate the money. This is your pile, this is mine. It all comes from the taxpayer. And we have members of the city council that support it. But if you don't take a week and send this out for an honest bid, Diogenes will still be looking and he'll walk right past all of you, especially Councilman Zalaki. I know it's a foregone conclusion. That's why I went to that, I was part of that committee meeting. We even had a good joke about a man that passed away, not at his expense, but in honor of him. Now, be fair. We want to award it to somebody that lives in Modesto or works in Modesto, okay. They already have a 5% discount that they get. Be fair. Is it so difficult? Well, history's showing yes. And I've got a public record request to find out how many times you've done it in the last 4 years. Of course, some of this information that I requested didn't come through on the...
Here.
No problem. Some of the information that I requested from the public record request is actually here today, but you didn't include it. Can't imagine why. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. All right. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, any comments from council members? Okay, Councilmember Ricky has a comment.
Trees have been one of the biggest complaints I've gotten in my district, both before and since I've been elected. It's been, half a dozen requests every other week. And I know I've been dealing with city staff constantly on it, and I just am really pleased that we're trying to do something about it. It's going to have a very positive impact on the citizens of my district, and I just appreciate you guys really applying yourselves and trying to find a solution to a problem that our community's having. Thanks.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by, comments from Councilmember Madrigal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to say, after tonight, I know that I'll be able to say to the constituents that contact me about fallen trees, or they send me photos in a text message about it or something, I'll be able to finally say, we're finally doing something about treating our trees, removing the tree stumps, and we're finally doing something about the trees in our communities, in our neighborhoods. We love the trees. Some of the trees need a lot of help, a lot of maintenance, and I'm going to be able to finally say we voted to dedicate some funding to that to solve that problem. Why? Because we had the funding to be able to do so, and we decided to do so, and so I look forward to supporting this.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from council members? I have a motion from Councilmember Wright and a second from Councilmember Zalaki, I believe.
No, it wasn't me, but I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, all right, I'll do a motion from Councilmember Wright, second from Councilmember Ricky. May we have the roll call, please, City Clerk?
Councilmembers Ricky.
Aye.
Zalaki.
Aye.
Canoyer.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Escusha Brayton.
Aye.
Madrigal.
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
Aye, so it carries unanimously. Thank you. On to matters too late for the agenda. Are there any matters too late for the agenda? Seeing no hands raised, seeing none, I'm calling this meeting of the City Council to be adjourned.